The mystery of the Rock Ship of Masuda. Perched quietly on a hillside in the historic region of Asuka, Japan, the mysterious structure known as Masuda no Iwafune, or the Rock Ship of Masuda, stands as one of the most puzzling stone monuments ever discovered. Carved from a single block of solid granite, this immense monolith weighs approximately 800 tons and measures 11 meters in length, 8 meters in width, and 4.7 meters in height. Its sheer scale alone commands attention, but it is the precision of its carving and the uncertainty surrounding its purpose that have elevated it into the realm of enduring mystery. The stone rests on the summit of a hill, overlooking a landscape once connected to ancient waterways and settlements. Its nickname, the Rock Ship, is believed to come from its resemblance to a great stone canoe, as well as its historical proximity to Lake Masuda, a body of water that has since been drained through regional development. When viewed from a distance, the monolith appears almost vessel-like, as though it were designed to sail across a sea that no longer exists. The top surface of the structure has been flattened with remarkable accuracy. At its center lie two square openings, carefully chiseled downward into the granite. These cavities are symmetrical and deliberate, suggesting a functional or ceremonial purpose rather than decorative intent. Their exact use remains unknown, yet their presence indicates planning, measurement, and technical capability far beyond casual stone shaping. One side of the monument, the face aligned toward the slope's summit, has been smoothed at an angle of approximately 45 degrees. This angled plane contrasts sharply with the other sides, where trellis-shaped chisel markings remain visible near the base. These marks are believed to be remnants of the stone dressing process, revealing the methods used by ancient craftsmen to refine the granite's surface. Even with modern equipment, granite is notoriously difficult to shape, making the level of finish achieved on Masuda no Iwafune all the more extraordinary. Scholars, engineers, and historians alike regard the monument as a technical marvel. The logistics of carving, shaping, and positioning such a massive stone block on elevated terrain would have required coordination, tools, and knowledge that remain difficult to fully reconstruct. Theories surrounding its purpose vary widely. Some believe it may have been intended as an unfinished tomb, others as a ceremonial platform, and still others as an astronomical observation site aligned with celestial events. Despite the passage of centuries, Masuda no Iwafune has never surrendered its full story. Weathered by time yet unbroken, it continues to overlook the Asuka landscape in silence. Its carved surfaces, geometric cavities, and ship-like form stand as a testament to ancient ingenuity, inviting contemplation about the people who shaped it and the purpose it was meant to serve. The mysterious Wall of the Crow. Rising from the desert landscape of the Giza Plateau stands one of the most imposing yet least understood structures of ancient Egypt. The colossal gateway of the Wall of the Crow, known in Arabic as Hayt el-Ghurab. Situated near the Great Pyramid and the Sphinx, this monumental barrier stretches 656 feet in length, stands 33 feet tall, and measures 33 feet thick. Dating back to the Old Kingdom 4th dynasty, between 2575 BCE and 2465 BCE, the wall represents an extraordinary feat of engineering whose full purpose remains shrouded in mystery. The most striking feature of the structure is its immense gateway, crowned by a massive lintel stone estimated to weigh between 120 and 300 tons. The sheer scale of this single block rivals some of the largest stones used in pyramid construction. Its placement above the entrance demonstrates remarkable precision and control, suggesting that the builders possessed sophisticated knowledge of stone transport and lifting techniques. Even by modern standards, maneuvering a stone of such weight would require careful coordination and advanced planning. One prevailing explanation suggests that the Wall of the Crow functioned as a sacred boundary. It may have separated the highly revered Pyramid and Sphinx precinct from the nearby workers' settlement, marking a clear division between ceremonial space and daily life. In this interpretation, the gateway would have served as a controlled passage, symbolically reinforcing the transition from ordinary ground to consecrated territory. The scale of the wall implies that its builders intended it to be both physically and visually dominant, a powerful statement of authority and protection. Yet despite its grandeur, evidence indicates that the structure was never fully completed. Unlike pyramids, tombs, and temple walls of the same era, the masonry of the Wall of the Crow was never dressed to produce a smooth, finished surface. The stones remain rough and unfinished, suggesting that the project was halted before reaching its intended final form. The reason for this abandonment remains unknown. Whether due to shifting priorities, resource limitations, political transitions, or unforeseen circumstances, the mammoth undertaking was left in an incomplete state. Today, the Wall of the Crow stands as a silent guardian of the plateau, its colossal gateway framing both history and unanswered questions. The mystery of the Colossi of Memnon. The mystery of the Colossi of Memnon continues to puzzle historians, engineers, and archaeologists, standing as one of the most astonishing achievements of the ancient world. Rising from the west bank of the Nile near modern-day Luxor, these two immense stone figures have watched over the landscape for more than 3,000 years, silently challenging modern understanding of ancient capability. Each statue towers to a height of roughly 60 feet and weighs an estimated 720 tons, all carved from single blocks of quartzite sandstone. Yet beyond their imposing presence and historical significance, they are remembered for a remarkable acoustic mystery that once surrounded them. Since 27 BCE, people have reported a strange phenomenon at sunrise. As the first rays of morning light warmed the stone, the statue emits a soft musical hum or ringing sound. The tone was described as ethereal and brief, lasting only moments as the desert air shifted from cool to warm. Ancient Greek travelers believed the sound was the voice of Memnon, a legendary hero said to greet his mother, the dawn goddess, each morning. What deepens the mystery is not only their size, but their origin. The stone used to create the colossi was quarried at El Gabal El Ahmar, near present-day Cairo, more than 400 miles away from their final resting place. Around 3,400 years ago, during the reign of Amenhotep III, these enormous blocks were somehow transported entirely overland to Thebes. No surviving inscriptions, reliefs, or written records explain how such an extraordinary feat was accomplished without cranes, modern tools, or wheeled vehicles. The absence of documentation has left scholars with theories, but no definitive answers. The challenge becomes even greater when considering the weight of the stone. Many researchers believe the blocks were too heavy to be transported upstream on the Nile, which rules out what might otherwise seem like an obvious solution. Instead, the journey likely involved complex systems of sledges, rollers, and labor forces, numbering in the thousands. Even so, the precise methods remain uncertain, especially given the uneven terrain and the immense distance involved. That such precision was achieved without catastrophic failure speaks to an advanced understanding of engineering that still inspires awe today. The colossi themselves once served as guardians of Amenhotep III's mortuary temple, a vast complex that covered more than 80 acres and surpassed even later monumental sites in scale. The statues were positioned about 50 feet apart, visible from more than 10 miles away, deliberately designed to dominate the horizon. Their purpose extended beyond architecture. They embodied the pharaoh's divine identity. Amenhotep III was repeatedly referred to as the good god, and the statues functioned as a public declaration of his status as both ruler and divine presence on earth. Over time, natural forces took their toll. Both statues suffered severe damage, particularly above the waist, where facial features became nearly unrecognizable. The northern statue developed a significant crack and was later reconstructed using multiple tiers of different stone, likely during the Roman period. Despite these changes, it is believed that the two figures were originally identical, forming a symmetrical and imposing entrance to the temple grounds. The colossi of Memnon endure as more than remnants of a lost civilization. They represent unanswered questions about human ingenuity, organization, and belief. The mysterious geometric shapes surrounding the Rishat structure. The Rishat structure, often referred to as the Eye of the Sahara, stands as one of the most mysterious geological formations on Earth. Located deep within the Sahara Desert of Mauritania, this immense circular feature stretches approximately 45 kilometers or 28 miles across the barren landscape. Its concentric rings, visible even from space, have fascinated explorers, scientists, and independent researchers for decades. Yet in recent years, satellite imagery has revealed something even more intriguing. Mysterious geometric shapes scattered around the structure, shapes that many believe cannot be easily dismissed as natural coincidence. With the rise of satellite technology and the accessibility of platforms such as Google Earth, the remote expanses of the Sahara have become open to detailed inspection. Observers examining the terrain surrounding the Perched structure have identified precise geometric formations etched into the desert floor. These include sharply defined squares, triangular outlines, circular enclosures, and straight lines extending across otherwise featureless sand. Their symmetry and proportion stand in stark contrast to the surrounding natural terrain. The Perched structure itself was once thought to be an impact crater due to its near-perfect circular appearance. Later, geological studies categorized it as a deeply eroded dome formed through uplift and gradual erosion over vast stretches of time. However, the geometric shapes discovered nearby do not share the same organic irregularity as the eye itself. Instead, they display angles, alignments, and proportional relationships that suggest intention rather than randomness. Some of these formations resemble enclosed compounds, complete with what appear to be entry points and perimeter walls. Others form triangular or square boundaries with circular nodes positioned at the corners. In certain satellite views, the shapes seem arranged in deliberate patterns, as though part of a larger plan or network. Their presence in such a remote and harsh environment raises compelling questions about their origin and purpose. One widely held belief among independent researchers is that these shapes are remnants of ancient settlements. The Sahara Desert was not always the vast expanse of sand seen today. Thousands of years ago, it was a fertile and thriving region, home to rivers, lakes, and flourishing communities. If advanced societies once inhabited this area, the geometric outlines could represent the foundations of structures, ceremonial complexes, or defensive enclosures now long buried beneath layers of sediment and time. Others suggest that the formations may have served astronomical purposes. Ancient civilizations across the world constructed observatories aligned with celestial bodies, marking solstices, equinoxes, and planetary movements. The alignment of certain shapes near the Perched structure appears to correspond with cardinal directions, suggesting they may have functioned as ancient calendars or sky-tracking installations. If so, this would indicate a sophisticated understanding of astronomy among the builders. The association of the Perched structure with the legendary Atlantis further deepens the mystery. Plato described Atlantis as a circular city composed of concentric rings of land and water. While mainstream historians dispute the connection, many enthusiasts note the striking resemblance between Plato's account and the physical layout of the Eye of the Sahara. The presence of geometric shapes in the surrounding region only strengthens speculation that the site may once have held greater significance. Skeptics argue that some of these shapes could be the result of modern activity, including surveying markers or minor installations. However, the scale and placement of several formations suggests something more enduring and ancient. The desert preserves traces remarkably well, and it is possible that what appears today as faint outlines are the weathered remnants of structures that once stood prominently against a greener landscape. The discovery of these geometric anomalies has sparked renewed interest in the Perched structure as more than a geological curiosity. If confirmed as human-made, they would challenge established timelines regarding settlement patterns in North Africa. They would imply organized planning, architectural knowledge, and possibly ceremonial or scientific traditions that predate known civilizations in the region. The mystery of the butterfly people of Missouri. The mystery of the butterfly people remains one of the most unusual and deeply moving accounts connected to a natural disaster in modern American history. During the evening hours of the 22nd of May 2011, the city of Joplin, Missouri was struck by a devastating EF5 tornado that tore through neighborhoods, businesses, and schools with overwhelming force. The storm arrived with little mercy, reshaping entire sections of the city and leaving survivors to grapple with both physical destruction and emotional shock. Yet amid the chaos and terror of that evening, extraordinary testimonies began to emerge, particularly from younger residents. In the days that followed the disaster, children across Joplin started sharing strikingly similar accounts. They spoke of radiant, humanoid figures who appeared during the height of the storm. These beings were described as tall, graceful, and luminous, with vast wings that resembled those of butterflies. Their wings shimmered with color, reflecting hues of blue, gold, violet, and silver, even against the darkened tornado sky. According to the children, these figures did not speak with words, yet conveyed reassurance and calm through their presence alone. Many survivors came to believe that the butterfly people appeared with a singular purpose: protection. Several accounts described the winged beings hovering between families and the violent winds, shielding them from airborne debris. Others recalled being gently guided away from collapsing structures or towards spaces that remained untouched by the storm's path. One widely shared testimony told of a parent and child who were caught in the open as the tornado approached. A butterfly person reportedly positioned itself between them and the swirling wreckage, its wings outstretched as fragments passed harmlessly around them. As rescue and recovery efforts continued, more stories surfaced. Adults who initially dismissed the children's words began reconsidering after hearing the consistency across accounts. Though some observers suggested the visions were imaginative responses to trauma, many locals felt the encounters carried a sincerity that could not be ignored. For those who lived through the storm, the butterfly people became symbols of comfort during a moment of profound fear. Over time, the city embraced the legend as part of its healing. A mural featuring a vibrant butterfly was painted in Joplin, serving as a visual emblem of hope, resilience, and unseen guardianship. Though no further sightings have been recorded since that night, the memory of the butterfly people endures in community storytelling. To the residents who experienced the storm, the mystery remains deeply personal. Whether viewed as angels, protectors, or benevolent spirits drawn to human distress, the butterfly people stand as luminous figures in Joplin's darkest hour, forever woven into the city's history of survival and renewal. A United States Postal Service employee reports 7-foot-tall red-eyed creature at O'Hare International Airport. In the late hours of Thursday, the 24th of September 2020, an unsettling encounter unfolded at the United States Postal Service sorting facility located within Chicago's O'Hare International Airport. The witness, a longtime postal employee with more than 17 years of service, had just completed her shift and stepped into the dimly lit parking lot at approximately 11 o'clock in the evening. What began as a routine walk to her vehicle would soon transform into one of the most chilling personal experiences of her life. As she approached the far end of the lot where she regularly parked, she noticed what appeared to be a very tall figure standing motionless in the distance. At first glance, she assumed it was a fellow employee wearing a long coat. The posture seemed human enough, though unusually still. As she neared her car, she pressed her key fob to unlock it, triggering the headlights. The beams cut across the darkness and illuminated the figure standing roughly 20 to 25 feet away. What the light revealed instantly shattered her assumption. The figure turned toward her, and she saw glowing red eyes reflecting back through the night. The supposed coat unfurled, revealing enormous wings stretching outward from the creature's back. She initially tried to rationalize what she was seeing, thinking perhaps it was an abnormally large bird. Yet its height, nearly 7 feet tall, and its upright stance made that explanation impossible to sustain. The being emitted a strange series of sounds, a rapid clicking and chirping noise unlike any animal she had ever heard. The sound intensified into a metallic screech, reminiscent of heavy train brakes echoing through the stillness. Without warning, the creature lunged forward in long, powerful strides. It closed the distance quickly, stopping within roughly 10 feet before launching upward into the air and flying directly above her. Overcome with terror, she screamed and dove headfirst into her vehicle, crouching behind the open door before pulling it shut. Her hands trembled as she started the engine, locked the doors, and turned on the interior lights. She sped out of the parking lot without looking back, not slowing until she reached the main road far from the facility. Upon reaching home, she recounted the encounter to her husband, who also worked at the same postal center. He informed her that similar sightings had been whispered about among employees and local residents. The revelation that others had seen the same winged figure only deepened her unease. Researcher Manuel Navarrete later met with the witness to document her testimony. Though initially reluctant to revisit the event, she provided consistent details about the creature's height, wingspan, and vocalizations. She estimated the wings stretched roughly 10 to 12 feet across, reinforcing its imposing scale. The sounds she described mirrored those reported in other regional encounters, including sightings near Rockford, Hedgewish Park, and the southern edge of Northerly Island. Witnesses in those locations also recounted metallic screeching and rapid clicking noises accompanying winged humanoid appearances. O'Hare International Airport has since become a focal point within the broader Lake Michigan Mothman phenomenon. Since August of 2019, at least 10 sightings have been documented around the airport alone, with many more reported throughout surrounding communities. Encounters typically occur at night near open land, water, or transit corridors. Descriptions remain strikingly consistent: a towering winged humanoid, dark or grey in form, with luminous red or reflective eyes. Some witnesses report an overwhelming sense of dread in its presence, while others simply describe shock at witnessing something so far beyond ordinary explanation. The mystery of Nan Madol. Nan Madol stands as one of the world's most mysterious and remarkable ancient cities, built atop a coral reef in the Pacific Ocean near the island of Pohnpei in Micronesia. Unlike any other known city in human history, it is the only ancient settlement constructed directly on a coral reef, and this distinction is only the beginning of what makes Nan Madol an enduring mystery. To this day, scholars, researchers, and visitors are left baffled as to how it was built, what tools were used, where the immense stones were quarried, and how these massive blocks were transported and lifted into place without the use of pulleys, levers, or metal tools. The origins of Nan Madol stretch back many centuries. While construction of the city is thought to have begun as early as the 8th or 9th century, the site's striking megalithic architecture began to emerge around the year 1200. This period marked the rise of the Sodalur dynasty, which ruled Pohnpei and unified its estimated 25,000 people under a single political and religious system. Nan Madol became the ceremonial and political heart of this dynasty, housing its rulers and serving as a place of governance, ritual, and control. Yet, it is not just the political history that captures attention, but the staggering engineering achievement represented in its construction. A single cornerstone from the royal mortuary complex of Nandawas is estimated to weigh an astonishing 50 tons. In total, more than 750,000 metric tons of stone were used to create the structures of Nan Madol, an incredible feat for a society that had no advanced machinery. Even spread out across 4 centuries of construction, this meant that an average of 1,850 tons of rock had to be moved and placed each year. For a population of only 25,000, this task appears almost impossible by conventional standards. The logistics are equally puzzling. The site itself consists of more than 90 small artificial islets, separated by narrow canals, giving Nan Madol its nickname, the Venice of the Pacific. These islets were built by stacking basalt columns, creating massive seawalls and platforms. But the basalt does not naturally occur on the coral reef where the city sits, leaving open the mystery of how these stones, each weighing several tons, were transported to the site. The absence of fresh water and food on the islets makes the city's location even more perplexing, since everything required for daily survival had to be brought in by boat. This suggests that Nan Madol was never meant to be a bustling city for the common population, but rather a highly specialized seat of power and ceremony. The legends of Pohnpei provide a fascinating perspective on how the city was built. Oral tradition speaks of twin sorcerers, Olisipa and Olosofa, who arrived on the island and, using magical powers, raised the giant stones into place with the help of a flying dragon. While such stories are often dismissed by modern historians, they reflect the sense of awe the local people felt toward this construction even centuries ago. To them, the creation of Nan Madol was not the work of ordinary men, but the result of supernatural intervention. Even beyond legend, Nan Madol's purpose and design are striking. It was a city built to house only 500 to 1,000 people, primarily the nobility and ruling chiefs of the Sodalur dynasty. It also served a role in controlling certain commoners who were not trusted, as they were forced to live within the city walls under constant watch. The architecture reflects this dual purpose, a mix of grand ceremonial structures, such as the mortuary complexes, and more confined areas for monitoring inhabitants. In this way, Nan Madol was both a palace and a prison, a symbol of power and authority, as well as a practical tool of governance. By the 17th century, Nan Madol was abandoned, though its exact reasons remain unclear. The Sodalur dynasty eventually fell, and the city, with its lack of natural resources, became unsustainable. Yet even after abandonment, Nan Madol did not lose its spiritual significance. The site continued to be used for religious ceremonies until as late as the 19th century, a testament to its enduring cultural and sacred importance to the people of Pohnpei. What continues to astonish modern observers is not only the scale and complexity of the construction, but the unanswered questions it leaves behind. How were the stones quarried, transported, and lifted into place without modern tools? Why was a city of such grandeur and difficulty built on a coral reef with no natural resources, and what truly inspired its unique design? Nan Madol stands as both a marvel of human achievement and an unsolved mystery of the ancient world. In many ways, Nan Madol represents the intersection of history, legend, and mystery. Its ruins speak of a society that achieved extraordinary feats with seemingly limited means. Its legends remind us of the power of oral tradition to preserve wonder and awe across generations, and its unanswered questions invite endless speculation, from theories of lost technologies to ideas of outside influences. Whatever its origins, Nan Madol endures as a symbol of mystery, a reminder that there are chapters of human history still waiting to be fully understood. The mystery of Chaco Canyon. In the remote deserts of New Mexico lies Chaco Canyon, a place that continues to defy explanation. Set within a harsh and unforgiving landscape, with no rivers to nourish farmland and no immediate resources to sustain large populations, this was the site where one of the most advanced and mysterious cultures in North America thrived between the years 850 and 1150. Against all odds, Chaco became not just a settlement, but a ceremonial and cultural hub that influenced vast portions of the continent. Its ruins stand as a testament to a civilization that achieved astonishing architectural, astronomical, and spiritual feats without the systems of power typically associated with such undertakings. The scale of Chaco Canyon is staggering. At its height, it featured massive stone buildings known as great houses, some rising 4 stories tall. Pueblo Bonito, the largest and most iconic of these structures, was a masterpiece of planning and precision. The effort required to build such complexes was extraordinary. More than 200,000 trees were transported from distances of over 50 miles, carried through barren deserts and rugged terrain without wheels, pack animals, or modern tools. The roads they constructed stretched across 70,000 square miles, laid out with striking precision. These were not haphazard trails but wide, straight ceremonial highways, some as broad as 30 feet, cutting across cliffs and canyons as though geography itself was no obstacle. What truly sets Chaco apart, however, is its connection to the cosmos. The builders of Chaco did not simply construct homes or community structures. They aligned their buildings with celestial events. Walls were designed to track the solstices, while doorways and windows framed the rising and setting of the moon during its complex 18-and-a-half-year cycle. Such precision reveals a culture deeply attuned to astronomical rhythms, not merely for practical timekeeping, but as part of a broader spiritual framework. Chaco was more than a city. It was a place where time, space, and ceremony converged. The great houses themselves were not densely inhabited in the way urban centers are imagined today. Instead, they appear to have served as ceremonial and political magnets, drawing people from across the southwest and beyond. Archaeological evidence reveals ritual items arriving from distant lands: turquoise mined from the American Southwest, cacao from Mesoamerica, and scarlet macaws, whose natural habitat lies far to the south. Such findings indicate that Chaco was part of a vast cultural and spiritual network, its influence extending across the continent. The roads further underscore this ceremonial function. Scholars argue that they were not designed primarily for trade or transport, but as symbolic pathways. They linked Chaco's great houses with distant outposts, serving as spiritual arteries in a vast religious landscape. The laser-straight nature of the roads, even when crossing difficult terrain, points to a dedication that transcended practicality. For those who walked them, the roads were likely an act of devotion, a journey linking participants to a shared cultural and cosmic order. What makes Chaco Canyon even more remarkable is what it lacked. There is no evidence of kings, monarchies, standing armies, or a system of taxation to compel labor. Yet the people of Chaco organized massive construction projects, maintained complex ceremonial systems, and drew participants from across a wide expanse of North America. Thousands of individuals made pilgrimages to the canyon, gathering for rituals that reinforced communal identity and shared purpose. It was, in many ways, a society without conquest, but one that commanded reverence and unity through culture and spirituality. And then, as suddenly as it rose, Chaco declined. By the mid-11th century, the great building projects had ceased. By the year 1150, Chaco was largely abandoned. The reasons remain unclear. Some point to shifts in climate, including extended droughts, that would have strained resources and made the environment even less hospitable. Others speculate about internal conflicts or disruptions within the spiritual order that once held the society together. What is certain is that the people did not vanish. The descendants of Chaco's builders live on today among the Hopi, Zuni, Acoma, and other Puebloan peoples, carrying fragments of Chaco's memory in their traditions and oral histories. Chaco Canyon challenges modern assumptions about what ancient societies were capable of achieving. It was not simply a survival settlement in a barren desert, but a carefully designed ceremonial center where architecture, astronomy, and community converged. Its builders moved hundreds of thousands of tons of stone, aligned their structures with the heavens, and created networks of roads that defy explanation even now. They mastered their environment not through conquest, but through cooperation and a shared devotion to something larger than themselves. Today, Chaco remains a place of awe and mystery. Visitors who stand among the ruins of Pueblo Bonito or walk the straight roads that vanish into the horizon are struck by the precision and purpose embedded in every stone. It is a site that speaks not only of human ingenuity, but of a worldview that placed the cosmos at the center of life. For over 3 centuries, Chaco thrived as a ceremonial magnet, a center of gravity for a continent-wide spiritual tradition. Its rise and fall remain a mystery, but its legacy endures as one of the most extraordinary achievements of ancient North America. In the silence of the canyon, the stones still whisper of a society that harnessed time itself, aligning earth and sky with a precision that continues to astonish. Chaco Canyon was more than a city. It was a vision made real in stone, an enduring mystery that reminds us of the vast potential of human culture and imagination. The mystery of the Callanise Standing Stones. The Callanise Standing Stones, located on the Isle of Lewis in Scotland's Outer Hebrides, remain one of the most captivating and mysterious prehistoric monuments in Europe. This extraordinary arrangement of stones, shaped like a great cross, was erected around 5,000 years ago, making it older than the more famous monument of Stonehenge in England. The stones have stood for millennia on a prominent ridge overlooking the land and sea, their presence dominating the landscape and drawing the attention of countless generations. They remain an enduring reminder of the ingenuity, spiritual devotion, and astronomical curiosity of the people who built them. At the heart of Callanise lies a central stone circle, from which rows of stones extend outward in the form of a cross. This central feature is flanked by at least 11 smaller stone circles scattered throughout the surrounding area. While some of these smaller circles were erected much later, their presence indicates that Callanise was not a site of fleeting use. Instead, it was a sacred landscape used for rituals, ceremonies, and gatherings over many centuries. Archaeological excavations confirm that this site remained central to the lives of local communities for at least 2,000 years, a span of time that testifies to its enduring cultural importance. One of the most compelling theories about the purpose of Callanise is its connection to astronomy. The arrangement of the stones seems too deliberate and precise to be accidental. Patrick Ashmore, who carried out excavations at the site in the early 1980s, argued that the monument was likely a kind of astronomical observatory. He noted that every 18.5 years, the moon appears to skim especially low over the southern hills, almost as if it were dancing along the horizon. Such an event would have been striking to prehistoric observers, who likely viewed the moon as a divine or supernatural force. By predicting and aligning their stones to these celestial movements, the builders of Callanise may have sought to connect themselves with heavenly cycles, and in doing so, they gained authority and prestige within their society. The alignment of Kalanaeus with lunar cycles suggests that the monument was much more than a ceremonial site. It may have served as a practical tool, helping its builders mark time, predict seasonal changes, and understand the rhythms of the natural world. Knowledge of the heavens would have been essential for agricultural communities, whose survival depended on planting and harvesting crops at the right times. Thus, Kalanaeus may have been both a spiritual and practical center, blending sacred ritual with the necessity of survival. The setting of the stones also adds to their significance. Positioned on a ridge that can be seen for miles both by land and by sea, Kalanaeus would have been a landmark of great importance. Travelers and sailors approaching the area could not have missed its towering stones. This visibility suggests that the monument was meant not only for local use, but also as a statement to outsiders. A declaration of the strength, knowledge, and spiritual depth of the community that built it. Archaeological discoveries in and around Kalanae provide further clues about the people who created it. The Western Isles, 5,000 years ago, were much warmer than they are today. The climate was favorable, wildlife was abundant, and food sources were plentiful. This abundance allowed communities to thrive and to invest time and energy in monumental constructions such as Kalanaeus. Artifacts found in the area, combined with the form of the site, suggest that its builders were part of a broader cultural tradition that spanned much of prehistoric Britain. Similar henges, timber circles, and stone circles have been discovered across the islands, pointing to a shared set of beliefs and practices that united communities across vast distances. The surrounding landscape of Kalanaeus is also key to understanding its importance. The network of stone circles in the area implies that Kalanaeus was not an isolated monument, but part of a much larger ritual landscape. These smaller circles likely served as satellite sites, perhaps used for different ceremonies or gatherings linked to the main complex. This extended landscape demonstrates the depth of ritual activity in the region and hints at a society that placed extraordinary emphasis on connecting with the spiritual and the cosmic. The folklore of the Western Isles adds another dimension to the mystery of Kalanaeus. Local legends speak of the stones as once being giants who were turned to stone when they refused to convert to Christianity. While this tale emerged much later, it illustrates the enduring fascination and awe the site has inspired through the centuries. Even as the original purpose of the stones was forgotten, their power as a symbol of something greater than human life persisted. What makes Kalanae so mysterious today is that, despite centuries of study, no definitive explanation has been found for its creation. While the astronomical theory remains the most convincing, the true intentions of its builders are lost to time. Was it a temple to the moon, a calendar, a gathering place, or perhaps all of these at once? The ambiguity only adds to the allure of Kalanaeus, leaving space for wonder and speculation. In the end, the Kalanae standing stones represent both a physical and spiritual achievement. Constructed without modern tools or machinery, their builders moved and erected stones of immense size with methods that remain speculative. More importantly, the site embodies a worldview in which the heavens, the earth, and human society were deeply interconnected. For those who created Kalanaeus, the cycles of the moon and the alignment of the stones were not abstract scientific concepts, but living expressions of the divine forces shaping their world. Today, the stones continue to inspire awe. Visitors who stand among them feel the same sense of wonder that must have gripped those who erected them 5,000 years ago. They remind humanity of its deep-rooted desire to understand the cosmos and to leave behind monuments that bridge the earthly and the eternal. The mysterious ruins of Gantia. The ancient ruins of Gantija, located on the Mediterranean island of Gozo, stand as some of the most remarkable and mysterious structures ever created by early human civilizations. These temples, dating back more than 5,500 years, are older than the pyramids of Egypt and second in age only to the sacred site of Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey. Their construction, scale, and enduring legacy have made them a profound puzzle for archaeologists, historians, and those fascinated by humanity's earliest expressions of faith and culture. The Gantia complex consists of 2 completed temples and the remains of a third that was abandoned before it could be finished. Among these, the southern temple is the most well-preserved and is considered the oldest, dating as far back as 3,600 years before the Common Era. Its design is both sophisticated and symbolic. The layout of the temples follows a cloverleaf pattern, with semicircular apses connected by a central passage. The southern temple alone contains 5 large apses, and remnants of plaster on the stones suggest that the interiors were once coated, perhaps to create a smoother, brighter, or more ceremonial space. Archaeologists believe that these apses would have originally been covered by a roof, which would have made the interior even more enclosed and sacred. What makes the construction of Gantia particularly astonishing is that it predates both the wheel and the widespread use of metal tools. Moving and assembling the massive limestone blocks, some weighing several tons, would have been a monumental challenge for the builders of the time. Yet somehow they managed it. Evidence found at the site, such as small round stones, has led to the theory that these could have been used as primitive ball bearings, helping transport the enormous blocks across the rugged terrain. This ingenious method suggests that the people of Gozo had an impressive understanding of mechanics and problem-solving, long before modern tools and techniques were available. The name Gantia itself comes from Gozitan folklore, which claims that the temples were built by giants. According to legend, a giantess carried the immense stones on her head and erected the temples in a single day. While clearly mythical, the story reflects the awe inspired by the sheer size of the stones and the apparent impossibility of their construction using only human strength and primitive tools. To the local people, the explanation that giants had once lived among them seemed more believable than imagining ordinary humans achieving such feats. The true purpose of the temples remains uncertain, though many scholars agree that Gantia was a religious or ceremonial site. The discovery of animal bones within the apses suggests that ritual offerings or sacrifices may have taken place there. A particularly large stone with a carved recess located near the entrance is believed to have been used as a purification station, where visitors may have performed ritual ablutions before entering the sacred space. The orientation of the temples also adds to this interpretation. The structures face southeast, aligned with the rising sun during the equinox. Such precision strongly implies that the temples were connected to celestial events, a common theme in ancient religious architecture. The rediscovery of Gantia has its own story. Although the ruins were known locally for centuries, they were first recorded in the 17th century by European scholars. However, little was done to preserve or study the site until 1827, when efforts were made to clear debris. Unfortunately, after this initial work, the ruins were left neglected, and the site fell into further decay. It remained in private hands until 1933, when it was expropriated for the public, finally allowing archaeologists to excavate, preserve, and study the temples properly. Since then, Gantia has been recognized as a site of immense cultural and historical value, eventually becoming a United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization World Heritage Site. Despite the studies that have been carried out, much about Gantia remains unknown. The methods of construction continue to puzzle experts, particularly given the limited technology available at the time. The exact rituals performed within its walls are still debated, as are the reasons why such an immense effort was devoted to building a complex capable of housing only a relatively small number of people. It seems clear, however, that the temples served as an exclusive place for ritual and ceremony, possibly reserved for the island's elite or priestly class. The abandonment of the temples adds yet another layer of mystery. Though they were used for centuries, by the time of the late Neolithic period, the structures fell out of use, replaced by new traditions and ways of life. Yet their presence on the landscape endured, and their massive stones continued to inspire awe in the generations that followed, giving rise to the folklore of giants that survives to this day. Scientists uncover a massive carved face resembling the Great Sphinx in Egypt. In the year 2021, during the C2 project in Egypt, a remarkable discovery was announced that captured the attention of both archaeologists and the wider public. A massive face, carved directly into the mountainside, was revealed at the Theban necropolis on the west bank of the Nile. This site, already well known for its ritual burials and monumental significance in Egyptian history, became the focus of renewed interest after researchers confirmed that the face was not a natural formation but the deliberate work of ancient artisans. The carving, despite its weathered state, retains enough definition for its features to still be visible. Archaeologists explained that computer reconstructions allowed them to recreate the original appearance of the face, showing how it may have once looked before erosion and human interference left it in its present condition. They further noted the significance of its placement. Positioned high on the mountainside, the face appears aligned with the movement of the sun, and the team suggested that during the solstices, sunlight would illuminate the figure directly. From its vantage point, the face overlooked the royal necropolis, serving as a beacon and perhaps a guardian for those interred there. This part of the Theban necropolis is especially important because it is also home to the Ramesseum, the mortuary temple of Pharaoh Rameses II, more widely remembered as Rameses the Great. Known as the third pharaoh of the 19th dynasty, Rameses the Great was celebrated not only as a warrior and builder, but as a figure who was revered almost as a god. His reign lasted an extraordinary 67 years, and he lived into his 90s, outlasting many of his own children. Across Egypt, statues, monuments, and inscriptions glorify his rule, and very few ancient sites exist without some mention of him. For many, the discovery of this carved face so near to his temple only strengthens the connection between the site and the grandeur of his reign. The team of archaeologists, which included experts from the University of Madrid, alongside members of the Ancient Egyptian Documentation Center of the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, made further discoveries at the site. They uncovered previously unexplored tombs, intricate carvings, and mummified animals, echoing the traditions that had long been associated with this era. These findings followed in the footsteps of earlier discoveries, such as the 30 wooden coffins unearthed in Luxor in 2019, accompanied by a collection of mummified animals at Saqqara, all of which reinforced the connection between ritual, symbolism, and guardianship in ancient Egyptian culture. Egyptologist José Ramón Pérez Aquino provided an interpretation of the carved face, suggesting that it may have represented a wigged visage similar to that of the goddess Hathor, daughter of the sun god Ra. Hathor, often depicted with a human face framed by long hair or a wig, was closely associated with motherhood, music, joy, and protection. While the carving cannot be described as a sphinx, as it lacks the body of an animal, Pérez Aquino explained that its role would have been similar to the Sphinx of Giza, a guardian presence watching over the sacred necropolis. The researchers also addressed the question of why the carving had suffered so much damage. They were confident that natural weathering alone could not account for the condition of the face. Instead, they concluded that the most likely explanation was deliberate vandalism, a fate that many ancient monuments in Egypt have suffered. Traces at the site, including materials left behind, suggest that this act of destruction took place much later, most likely during the medieval period, when many sacred images and monuments were deliberately disfigured. Despite this damage, the discovery has been hailed as one of the most extraordinary finds in recent years. The scale of the carving, its deliberate alignment with the solstices, and its watchful position over the necropolis give it a sense of majesty and purpose. It reinforces the idea that ancient Egyptian architects and artisans were not only masters of stonework, but also of symbolism, geometry, and cosmic alignment. The massive face carved into the Theban necropolis offers a glimpse into how the ancients understood the interplay of land, sky, and spirit. For the people of that time, such a guardian presence would have been more than decoration. It was a statement of faith and power, designed to endure across millennia, watching over the souls of kings, nobles, and commoners alike. Even in its weathered state, the face still exudes an aura of mystery and reverence, reminding modern observers that Egypt's deserts are far from silent. They still hold secrets waiting to be revealed. The discovery of a mysterious cave painting. The rediscovery of thousands of ancient Taino cave drawings on Mona Island has sparked widespread fascination, not only for its scale, but for the mysterious imagery it contains. The Taino were the indigenous people of the Caribbean, inhabiting the islands of Puerto Rico, Hispaniola, Jamaica, and beyond. For centuries, their history and traditions were largely silenced following the arrival of European conquistadors. Yet, deep beneath the rocky surface of Mona Island, their legacy has been preserved in an extraordinary way. Thousands of cave paintings and carvings spread across at least 30 known caves, with over 100 more caves still awaiting exploration. Among the vast collection of symbolic artwork, one particular image has captivated both archaeologists and the wider public. It depicts what appears to be a humanoid figure with a large, bulbous head, narrow chin, and slanted eyes, features that many observers immediately associated with the so-called alien archetype, often reported in global folklore and cave art. The image is striking in its detail. The head appears slightly disproportionate to the body, the eyes are almond-shaped and intense, and the faint outline of a mouth suggests an almost otherworldly presence. This is not the first time such imagery has been found in prehistoric cave systems. From Australia to Africa, Europe to the Americas, ancient rock art frequently portrays mysterious beings with elongated heads and oversized eyes, often interacting with human figures or appearing in ritualistic settings. To the Taino, these figures may have held profound spiritual or cosmological significance. The caves themselves were sacred spaces, places of connection with the spirit world, fertility, and ancestral memory. It is possible that these figures were regarded as guardians, messengers, or deities tied to the stars. What makes the Mona Island discovery remarkable is not only the imagery, but its scale. With thousands of distinct paintings and carvings already documented, and potentially many more hidden in unexplored caves, this may represent one of the largest intact repositories of ancient art anywhere in the Caribbean. The artistry also appears to have been carefully planned. Archaeologists have noted how the figures were placed in prominent positions within the caves, illuminated by the flickering light of torches, creating an almost theatrical presence during rituals. The painting that resembles an alien has fueled speculation beyond the academic world. Some suggest that the Taino may have recorded encounters with beings not of this world, preserved across generations through oral traditions and artistic expression. This interpretation grows more compelling when compared with similar motifs across distant cultures. The consistency of these depictions, the large eyes, elongated heads, and humanoid but non-human features, has led some to argue that ancient societies may have shared more than just imagination. From a historical perspective, the rediscovery of this artwork is also a powerful act of cultural revival. For centuries, the Taino people were thought to have disappeared, yet modern descendants in Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic proudly continue to preserve their identity, and these cave paintings offer direct testimony of their ancestors' worldview. To see images that resonate with both myth and mystery allows for a deeper appreciation of the sophistication of their society. The question of why these beings were carved or painted remains unanswered, but their presence cannot be ignored. Whether spiritual guardians, star beings, or ancestral entities, they held enough importance to be recorded in sacred caves meant to endure the ages. Archaeologists believe that as more caves are explored, more figures like this will come to light, perhaps even offering new patterns or connections that could expand our understanding of Taino cosmology. For now, the mysterious face etched into stone continues to draw global attention. Its resemblance to the archetypal alien stirs the imagination, suggesting that the mysteries recorded by the Taino are not confined to the past. Instead, they remain alive, echoing through the dark chambers of Mona Island's caves, waiting for the world to understand them. Mysterious face carved into Canadian cliff. In the rugged and remote wilderness of Canada's Pacific Rim National Park Reserve lies one of the most mysterious and least understood discoveries of recent years: the face in a cliff. Situated among the Broken Group Islands of British Columbia, this mysterious carving, or natural formation, continues to draw fascination and speculation from locals, researchers, and visitors alike. Its presence is both awe-inspiring and puzzling, as it raises deep questions about how it came to exist in such an inaccessible and dangerous location. The story of the face in a cliff begins in the year 2008, when a kayaking tourist first reported seeing what looked like a giant human face carved into the rock face of Reeks Island. The sighting sparked interest, but despite the report being passed on to Parks Canada, the feature went unnoticed for years. It was not until the year 2015 that the face was rediscovered by a man named Hank Gus, a member of the Sechart First Nation. Gus had heard repeated stories of this mysterious visage from other kayakers, and after 2 years of determined searching, he finally located it. The face itself is remarkable in both form and placement. Measuring around 7 feet in height, it bears a striking resemblance to the Ugi, a traditional character of the Seshat First Nation. The Ugi represents the blowing of wind and the passing down of ancestral stories from one generation to the next, a reminder that the voices of those who came before continue to live on in the present. The discovery of this face, resembling such an important cultural symbol, has led many to wonder whether it was intentionally carved by ancient hands as a lasting testament to Seshat traditions. However, the cliff face's location makes this theory difficult to reconcile. The carving is positioned roughly 40 feet up from the base of the cliff and about 20 to 25 feet down from the top, wedged between steep and sheer walls of rock. The surrounding terrain is treacherous, accessible only by boat under favorable conditions, and the rock itself is difficult to shape. For a group of people to have carved it, they would have needed not only the tools and determination, but also an extraordinary means of access. To this day, its inaccessibility has prevented experts from examining it up close, meaning questions about its origins remain unanswered. Despite this, the resemblance to Seshat cultural imagery cannot be ignored. On the doors of the Seshat Administration Office, carvings of the Ugi bear an uncanny likeness to the face in the cliff. Many within the community feel a spiritual connection between the two, viewing the face not just as a curiosity, but as a living part of their ancestral history etched into the very landscape. Whether natural or man-made, it holds deep meaning for those who see it as a reminder of heritage and resilience. Experts such as Parks Canada's First Nation Program Manager Matthew Payne acknowledge the mystery. He has stated that it cannot yet be determined whether the face is the result of human craftsmanship or the outcome of natural weathering and erosion. The possibility that it could be a natural occurrence shaped over centuries by wind and rain adds yet another layer of fascination, as nature itself can often mimic art in extraordinary ways. Yet the face in the cliff continues to inspire more than just academic debate. For visitors who journey by kayak to catch a glimpse, it represents a rare fusion of nature, culture, and mystery. Set against the wild beauty of the Pacific coast, surrounded by crashing waves and dense forests, the face feels alive, a mysterious presence watching over the cliffs, a sentinel that has endured for centuries, perhaps even millennia. The story of the face in the cliff is not just about geology or archaeology, but about connection. It links the present to the past, the natural to the spiritual, and human imagination to the mysteries of the land. Whether sculpted by human hands or carved by the elements, the face endures as a symbol of wonder, inviting all who see it to reflect on the unknown forces, both human and natural, that shape the world. Mysterious manuscript. In the early 14th century, between the years 1300 and 1340, a remarkable manuscript was produced in medieval France. Known as the Smithfield Decretals, it is a richly illuminated collection of canon law, adorned with intricate decorations and imaginative marginal illustrations. While the main body of the text deals with ecclesiastical decrees and rulings, its margins are filled with whimsical and sometimes puzzling images. Among these is one particular figure that has fascinated historians and the public alike. A small, green-skinned humanoid creature with large pointed ears, robed in red, bearing an uncanny resemblance to the modern-day Star Wars character, Yoda. The figure is seated serenely in the margin above a section of text concerning ecclesiastical elections. Its long red robe drapes over its small frame, and its head tilts forward slightly, as if in deep contemplation. The creature's large, expressive eyes, wrinkled face, and pointed ears contribute to its air of wisdom and agelessness. When compared side by side with images of the Jedi Master from George Lucas's cinematic universe, the similarities are striking enough to prompt speculation about how such an image could have appeared in a manuscript created more than 600 years before the Star Wars films. Historian Damien Kempf brought renewed attention to this image when he identified it within the manuscript. According to records from the British Library, the Smithfield Decretals was written in Toulouse, France, before making its way to London in the early 14th century. It was during this period in England that the marginal illustrations, including the so-called Yoda figure, were added. The placement of this figure is particularly intriguing, as it appears in the context of biblical scenes from the story of Samson, suggesting that the artist may have drawn upon themes of strength, wisdom, and divine guidance when imagining the character. For those who view the resemblance as more than coincidence, The possibilities are captivating. However, it is also true that medieval marginalia often included fantastical beings, part human and part creature, drawn purely from the imagination of the scribe or artist. These whimsical illustrations were intended to amuse, provoke thought, or serve as allegories alongside the main text. In this light, the Yoda-like figure may simply be the product of a creative medieval mind, unintentionally foreshadowing a design that would emerge in the late 20th century. Whether coincidence or something deeper, the Yoda figure of the Smithfield Decretals remains an enchanting reminder of how images can transcend time. Its serene posture and wise expression, captured by a medieval hand centuries ago, continue to spark curiosity in the modern age, bridging an unexpected connection between the illuminated pages of the Middle Ages and the silver screen adventures of a galaxy far, far away. Mysterious James Webb Telescope discovery. The James Webb Space Telescope has once again provided a glimpse into the cosmos that challenges the very foundations of modern astronomy. By capturing light that has traveled for billions of years, Webb has allowed astronomers to peer back to a time just 300 million years after the Big Bang, further into the early universe than any previous optical or infrared telescope. The original goal of these observations was to learn more about the birth of galaxies and to unravel the puzzle of how supermassive black holes became so large so quickly. Yet, as is often the case in science, the data has brought with it a surprise, one that could point to an extraordinary possibility, that our universe might exist inside a black hole. This unexpected idea comes from a recent study conducted by researchers at Kansas State University. Using Webb's unprecedented imaging capabilities, the team examined 263 galaxies from the early universe that were clear enough to determine their direction of rotation. According to the prevailing cosmological models, the universe on large scales should be uniform and without a preferred direction. Galaxies should rotate in random orientations, both in the modern universe and in the distant past. Yet the team found otherwise. Their analysis revealed a significant imbalance. Out of the galaxies studied, 105 rotated in a counterclockwise direction, while 158 rotated clockwise when compared to the Milky Way. This 60-40 split was not subtle. As lead researcher Lior Shamir noted, the difference is so obvious that even an untrained observer can see it. This is not the first time a directional bias in galaxy rotation has been suggested, but never before has it been observed so strongly in such ancient galaxies. The implications of this finding are profound. If the early universe exhibited a preferred direction of rotation, it suggests that the cosmos was born with an inherent spin, becoming more chaotic over time. This challenges the long-held assumption of isotropy, the idea that the universe is the same in every direction. Some cosmological models, such as those proposing an ellipsoidal universe, a dipole Big Bang, or anisotropic inflation, do allow for a large-scale cosmic axis. Intriguingly, the apparent axis indicated by the Webb observations is located close to the galactic pole, a coincidence that raises further questions. One of the boldest explanations put forward by the researchers is rooted in black hole cosmology. This theory proposes that our entire universe is the interior of a black hole residing within a larger universe. If our cosmos was born rotating, this spin could be a remnant of the rotation of the black hole that birthed it. In such a scenario, the preferred direction of galaxy rotation seen in the early universe would be a natural consequence of this origin. If true, it would mean that current theories about the universe's structure and beginnings are incomplete, and that our cosmic neighborhood is far stranger than previously imagined. However, the team also considers a less exotic but still significant possibility. The observed imbalance might be an artifact of the Doppler effect. If galaxies rotating opposite to the Milky Way's spin appear brighter due to the way their motion shifts the light we see, then these galaxies would be overrepresented in deep surveys. This brightness bias could become more pronounced the further we look into the redshifted universe. If the Milky Way's rotation has more influence on our observations than expected, this could require a complete recalibration of distance measurements to far-off galaxies. Such a recalibration would have far-reaching consequences. It could resolve existing discrepancies in the measured expansion rate of the universe, and it might even help explain the puzzling discovery of galaxies that, based on current calculations, seem to be older than the universe itself. These issues have long been thorns in the side of cosmologists, and correcting for rotational Doppler bias could bring long-sought clarity. Regardless of which explanation proves correct, the findings highlight the transformative power of the James Webb Space Telescope. Its ability to probe the deep past with unprecedented clarity is already reshaping humanity's understanding of the cosmos. If the preferred direction of galaxy rotation is confirmed through further studies, it will represent a fundamental shift in cosmology. Whether it ultimately points to a rotating universe born inside a black hole or to a previously overlooked observational bias, it is clear that the universe still holds many secrets waiting to be revealed. What happened to Chance Engelbert? The disappearance of Chance Engelbert remains one of the most troubling mysteries in the Midwest. At only 25 years old, Chance was a husband and a new father, with much of his life ahead of him. On the 6th of July 2019, during what began as a normal summer day in Gering, Nebraska, events unfolded that would leave his family and community searching for answers. After an argument with his wife while visiting her family, Chance decided to leave the home on foot. What seemed at first to be a short walk to clear his mind instead became the starting point of a years-long search filled with questions, uncertainty, and heartache. Surveillance cameras across Gering captured Chance as he made his way through town. At that time, the weather was quickly deteriorating, with a strong thunderstorm developing over the area. As lightning and heavy rain began to fall, Chance continued walking. During this period, he made several phone calls to friends and relatives asking for a ride. Unfortunately, despite his efforts, he was unable to secure transportation. The last signal from his phone was traced to an area near a truck stop in Scottsbluff, Nebraska. This was around the time the storm grew severe, bringing both flooding and widespread disruptions. After that moment, his trail seemed to vanish. As time passed, new information surfaced that brought hope, but also further questions. A private investigator working with Chance's family spoke to a convenience store clerk in Scottsbluff who remembered seeing him shortly before the storm became intense. The clerk described a tense exchange between Chance and another man inside the store. While the details remain unclear, this sighting suggested that he may not have been entirely alone that evening. Adding to the mystery, there were also reports of two women running nearby in apparent distress, though no connection has ever been firmly established between them and Chance's disappearance. The community response to Chance's case was immediate and profound. Search efforts began quickly, with both law enforcement agencies and local volunteers joining forces. Over 147 individuals participated in ground searches that covered more than 2,400 acres. These efforts extended into the air as well, with searches spanning more than 380 miles. Dogs trained to track scents were deployed, and nearby water bodies were drained in hopes of discovering even the smallest clue. Despite these exhaustive actions, no significant evidence emerged that could explain where Chance had gone or what had happened to him after his final sighting. The endurance and determination of the community surrounding the Engelbert family stand as a testament to the impact Chance had in life. Friends, neighbors, and even strangers rallied behind the search, offering their time, resources, and prayers. In the years since his disappearance, the family has continued to pursue every possible lead, refusing to give up on finding answers. Their perseverance reflects not only their love for Chance, but also their hope that someday the truth will be revealed. Chance's story has touched countless hearts, both in Nebraska and far beyond. His disappearance highlights the profound uncertainty and pain faced by families who experience such events. The unanswered questions weigh heavily on those who knew him best, yet their dedication to seeking resolution has never faded. While the storm on that summer night left behind devastation in its wake, it is the absence of Chance that remains the greatest loss. The mystery of Chance Engelbert continues to be a reminder of the fragility of life and the strength of community. As time passes, the Engelbert family holds on to the possibility that new information will one day surface to bring clarity. Until then, Chance's story remains one of perseverance, unity, and hope, a narrative that urges all who hear it to keep searching for the truth. The mystery of Branson Kane Perry. On the 11th of April 2001, 20-year-old Branson Kane Perry vanished from his hometown of Skidmore, Missouri, under circumstances that remain unexplained more than 2 decades later. Branson was known for his friendly and easygoing nature, and at the time of his disappearance, he was living with his father, Bob Perry, at their home on West Oak Street. His parents had recently divorced, and Bob had been recovering in the hospital. That day, Branson was preparing for his father's return, cleaning and organizing the house with the help of his friend Jenna. The afternoon began like any other, with the two of them tidying up and making sure everything would be ready when Bob came home. Outside, 2 workmen were busy repairing Bob's car in the driveway. At around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Branson mentioned to Jenna that he was going to step out to the shed in the yard to return a pair of jumper cables. It was a simple errand, one that should have taken no more than a few minutes. But Branson never came back into the house. When Gina realized he was gone, she assumed he had been delayed or had decided to walk somewhere nearby. There was no immediate sign of trouble, and his absence at first did not seem alarming. However, by the next day, the situation became far more concerning. On the 12th of April, Branson's grandmother, Joanne, stopped by the house and found the door unlocked and the house empty. She repeatedly tried calling the home phone, but there was no answer. Growing increasingly worried, she reached out to Branson's mother, Rebecca Clino, who also had not heard from him. By the time Bob Perry was discharged from the hospital, it was clear that Branson had disappeared without leaving any explanation. His parents promptly filed a missing persons report. Authorities began searching a 15-mile radius around the Perry home, scouring fields, wooded areas, and rural roads for any sign of him. Despite their efforts, there was no trace of Branson. The investigation took an unexpected turn about a month later, when police re-interviewed Gina. She admitted that she and Branson had been experimenting with substances together before he went missing. This revelation led investigators to speak with several people in Branson's social circle who were known to be involved in similar activities. All of them denied having seen him that day, and each one passed a polygraph examination. Bob Perry believed it was possible that his son had hitchhiked to Kansas City to spend time with friends, though there was no direct evidence to support this theory. Then, in 2003, a chilling possibility emerged. Authorities executed a search of the home and computer of Jack Wayne Rogers, a man with a history involving young men. On Rogers' computer, they found disturbing online messages in which he claimed to have picked up a hitchhiker, then assaulted him. Many speculated that this account might refer to Branson. However, there was no definitive proof, and Rogers was eventually imprisoned in 2004 on unrelated charges. Rebecca Clino later stated that she did not believe Rogers was responsible for her son's disappearance, despite the unsettling similarities in the story. The case remained open, with no solid leads. Then, in 2009, police received a tip suggesting that Branson's remains were buried at an excavation site. Investigators fully excavated and searched the area, but once again, no evidence was found. The years that followed brought heartbreak for the family. Bob Perry passed away in 2004, never knowing what had happened to his son. Rebecca continued to advocate for answers until her own passing in 2011. Throughout all those years, no new evidence surfaced to explain Branson's sudden disappearance. He left behind no messages, no signs of a planned departure, and no clear trail to follow. In Skidmore, a small town with a history of unsettling mysteries, Branson's case has become one of the most haunting. It stands apart because of how quickly and quietly he seemed to vanish. One moment stepping outside to return jumper cables, and the next gone without a sound or sighting. Friends and neighbors recall how surreal it felt in the days afterward, with no clues to chase and no solid theories to grasp. Today, the mystery of what happened to Branson Perry continues to weigh on those who knew him. While some still wonder if he left voluntarily to start a new chapter elsewhere, others believe something more sinister occurred. Yet without tangible evidence, every theory remains speculation. What is certain is that on that spring afternoon in 2001, Branson's life was interrupted in a way no one could have predicted. The unanswered questions still echo through the small community, where people continue to hope that one day the truth will be uncovered. Until that day comes, the disappearance of Branson Kane Perry remains a chilling reminder of how a life can change in an instant, and how, even after decades, some mysteries refuse to let go of their secrets. The Mystery of Corrie McKeague. On the night of the 24th of September 2016, 23-year-old Corrie McKeague was enjoying a night out with friends in the town of Bury St Edmunds, Suffolk, England. Those who encountered him that evening described him as cheerful and friendly, though by the early hours of the morning, his high level of intoxication led staff at the Flex nightclub to ask him to leave. It was a decision that would place him alone on the quiet streets in the small hours, heading towards an area few pass through at that time of night. The last confirmed sighting of Corrie came at around 3:25 in the morning. CCTV cameras captured him walking past an area that housed large industrial waste bins. This part of town, generally deserted at that hour, would later become the focal point of the police investigation. Around 30 minutes after he was last seen, a Biffa waste lorry arrived, emptied one of the large bins, and drove away. Investigators from Suffolk Police developed a theory that Corrie had climbed into the bin and was unknowingly transported in the lorry's load to the Milton landfill. According to police, it would not have been the first time he had done something similar, having been known to occasionally rest in bins while intoxicated. Data from Corrie's phone seemed to support the theory. It followed the same route as the lorry after the time he was last seen, moving at a speed indicating that he was inside a vehicle. The phone's signal ceased around 8 in the morning, either from damage or being switched off. Despite extensive searches at the landfill, no trace of his remains was ever found. By 2018, the investigation was officially passed to the cold case team. At one point, officers showed Corrie's mother, Nicola, a series of surveillance images from the night of his disappearance. While reviewing the footage, Nicola saw a photograph she believed was of her son, apparently taken after the time police claimed he had already been lost. Authorities assured her the person in the image was a woman they had investigated, but Nicola remained unconvinced. Her 3 other sons and Corrie's girlfriend agreed with her assessment. Though none of them believed Corrie was still alive, they suspected the official account was wrong and that something else had happened. Nicola has put forward the belief that Corrie may have encountered trouble while making his way back to RAF Honington, where he was stationed as an airman. Over time, 2 accounts emerged from members of the public. One woman claimed her husband, a taxi driver, had been involved in a violent altercation with Corrie after he became unwell in the vehicle, leaving him in a dangerous condition. Another account came from someone who alleged their friend had attempted to rob Corrie that night, with the situation escalating unexpectedly. In this version, the man was said to have placed Corrie into the bin afterward. Police were unable to substantiate either claim, and without conclusive evidence, the case remained unresolved. For Corrie's family, the uncertainty has been deeply painful. His girlfriend gave birth to their child a few months after he vanished, a bittersweet moment overshadowed by the unanswered questions surrounding that September night. In the years since, Nicola and the rest of Corrie's loved ones have continued their search for the truth. They have pressed for more answers, challenged official conclusions, and kept his story alive in the hope that one day the full events of that early morning will be revealed. For them, the disappearance of Corrie McKeague remains a mystery, marked not only by the absence of resolution, but by the belief that key details have yet to come to light. The strange case of Stephen Paul Thomas. Back in 1976, a group of 5 college friends would decide to take a short vacation to the tallest mountain range in New York, enjoying a small camping trip and barbecue while on the summit of Mount Marcy, located at about 5,300 feet in elevation and only a few miles southeast of Lake Placid. Unfortunately for the group, shortly after arriving at their desired location, one of their friends, a young 19-year-old man by the name of Stephen Paul Thomas, would suddenly vanish while hiking alone on an amateur hiking trail near their campsite. Although the friends would make an initial attempt to search for him on their own, a bizarre series of events would leave them too frightened to make any attempt at a search before contacting local authorities. According to the missing persons report of Stephen Paul Thomas, he and his 4 college friends from the Onondaga Community College decided to take a camping trip to Mount Marcy, as each of them had thousands of hours of camping and hiking experience and greatly enjoyed the outdoors. The 5 men, named Mark Seymour, James Thackerbury, Ken Sherwood, Robert Bromley, Bruce Weaver, and Stephen Paul Thomas, had all grown up in the state of New York, and so were quite familiar with the area. The group of men would ultimately arrive at the base of the mountain sometime in the early morning on the 12th of April 1976, with all 5 men, joined also by Ken Sherwood's dog, ready to make the long hiking trek for the day. Once everyone arrived, the 5 friends would gather their gear and make the long hike to the mountain's summit, located at 5,300 feet in elevation, over the next few hours. According to the group, it would be at around 3:30 in the afternoon, towards the late afternoon, when they would reach a small shelter located only a mile away from the summit of Mount Marcy, above the mountain's natural tree line, where the group of men would decide to camp. The shelter is a well-known landmark of the mountain and is commonly referred to as Hopkins Lean-To, and served as a common rest stop for hikers doing overnight journeys in the area. As the group started a small cooking fire to help dry out their clothes and warm themselves up, and began to unpack to take a short rest, Stephen Thomas would make a small cup of tea while looking over his map and plotting out the rest of the travel route. After a few minutes of resting, the rest of the group began to unpack their tents as they started to come to an agreement to set up a more permanent camp and sleep at the Hopkins Lean-To until morning. Rather than wanting to stop at the Hopkins Lean-To, Stephen Paul Thomas begged the others in his group to persevere for the next mile so that the group could sleep on the summit together on that first night to watch the stars. Despite making a strong effort, the other 4 would refuse to walk any further and would instead tell Stephen that they were willing to let him go on alone to the summit if he badly wanted, and that they would all meet up there later in the night after taking a short break. Although it is never a good idea to separate from the group when traveling late at night on steep slopes, Stephen Thomas was considered to have been the most experienced outdoorsman of the group and would often go on long treks without breaks lasting for more than 8 hours at a time. After deciding to leave to reach the summit, the group would claim that they watched as Stephen would place his bright yellow rain slicker over his down coat and begin to walk towards the only trail that led to the mountain's peak. The group continued unpacking and setting up their tents as they took a short nap together, unworried about Stephen's welfare. At around 10 in the evening, the 4 men would wake up to the whistling sounds of blisteringly loud winds and freezing temperatures as the night and the high elevation made conditions extreme. Prior to the trip, the men had watched weather forecasts, and even though calm and warm conditions were predicted for the area, before long, temperatures plummeted down to as low as 10 degrees Fahrenheit, causing the friends to begin to worry about Stephen Paul Thomas alone on the mountain's summit. Not wishing to waste any more time, the men gathered together their tents and camping equipment and began their hike towards the summit sometime after 10 in the evening. Although the summit was less than a mile from where they had camped earlier in the day, the men were unable to make the distance, as they would later tell investigators that the sudden severe winds would make it difficult to travel more than a few feet without almost toppling over. Additionally, the frozen temperatures made the wet snow even more dangerous as the men struggled against possible hypothermia and frostbite of their extremities. After traveling over half a mile with no visible sign of Stephen Paul Thomas or his camp anywhere nearby, the men decided to make camp once again and settle down for the night until the winds and cold temperatures had passed. Although never directly stated by the men, investigators also wondered if a sudden form of hysteria had come over the group of men who appeared to have also found the event frightening on an almost supernatural level. In an article published by the Times-Union news outlet on the 22nd of April 2001, one of the men, Ken Sherwood, would give a direct account of that night on the mountain as a superstitious event. Not only would all the men complain of an overwhelming feeling of panic overcoming them, as well as the fear that something far more strange was occurring around them, but Ken would tell reporters about his dog's sudden erratic behavior. It was also considered highly unusual for the canine to have been so misbehaved, as the dog commonly enjoyed long hiking trips and was no stranger to the outdoors, but for some unknown reason hid in the tents and refused to leave as it would whine and growl. As the men set up their camp, with their tents and equipment far closer together than they were usually comfortable with, their fears started to get the better of them as they refused to take any further action, even after the winds had died down. It would not be until daybreak the following morning that the friends would gather their equipment and make another attempt at locating Stephen Paul Thomas. After the men reached the summit, it became obvious that Stephen had never made it to the location and most likely had become lost along the trail. Fearing the worst, 3 of the men would travel down the mountain to notify authorities of Stephen's disappearance, while one of the men, accompanied with the dog, would stay on the mountain in the event that Stephen would soon show up. By 3 in the afternoon, members with the United States Forestry Service and the New York Department of Environmental Conservation were well underway with an emergency search and rescue for the missing 19-year-old hiker. Before long, over several hundred search and rescue volunteers would aid in the recovery of Stephen Paul Thomas, with officials working with the New York Department of Environmental Conservation, the United States Forestry Service, and the New York State Police, joining the search alongside hundreds of United States military personnel from nearby military bases that included Army Rangers, professional search and rescue teams, aerial teams, helicopters, and local residents. Despite this massive search effort, however, no sign of Stephen Paul Thomas was ever discovered, a fact that would baffle investigators within the first few days of the rescue operation. Perhaps just as unexpected as the sudden fierce winds and freezing temperatures in the area, on the 18th of April, roughly 6 days following the disappearance of Stephen Paul Thomas, the entirety of Mount Marcy would suddenly hit warm temperatures that would reach up to 85 degrees during the day and over 50 degrees Fahrenheit throughout the night. This sudden warmth would not help improve search conditions, however, as the recent freezing temperatures had built up a significant snowpack, with the now warming temperatures causing a major snowmelt across the mountain range, further complicating search efforts. After roughly 14 days of unending search for the missing 19-year-old, no sign of Stephen Paul Thomas would be found. Unfortunately for the Thomas family, due to the lack of any significant discovery being made in the case and the growing unsafe conditions of the mountain due to the sudden massive snowmelt, investigators would slowly bring the official search and rescue operation to an end, and by the 16th day of disappearance, the search for Stephen Paul Thomas was closed. Investigators theorized that it was likely that the 19-year-old had traveled out of the region prior to the search and could have been anywhere outside of the national park and New York mountain range. Despite the end of the official search, Stephen's older brother, a man by the name of Robert Thomas, would continue an unofficial search for his missing brother for years following his disappearance. Robert Thomas would go so far as quitting his job near Utica, New York, and move to the Mount Marcy area permanently, where he would stay at the park until August before getting a permanent residence in the area. Veteran state park rangers would later give official statements to local newspapers mentioning Robert Thomas's devotion to his brother and his extreme expertise in the outdoors. Many of the state park rangers would also claim that Robert Thomas had become an expert on the surrounding location, with the rangers making the statement that Robert knew the mountain better than just about anyone. Because of Robert's unending efforts, it would be at around 3 months after the disappearance of Stephen Paul Thomas that a bizarre twist in the case of the missing 19-year-old would surface. According to an official report, it would be during the month of July that Robert Thomas would discover the remains of a man that fit many of the descriptions of his missing brother. However, the face of the deceased body looked unlike Stephen Paul Thomas. The body was described by officials as appearing very recent and fresh, and that there had been no other hikers reported missing in the over for the past 2 years, making it unlikely that the body was not the missing Stephen Paul Thomas. It would take another 48 hours for investigators to confirm the identity of the recovered individual. Oddly enough, the remains were confirmed to be not Stephen Paul Thomas, but a hiker that had gone missing over 3 years prior during March of 1973 by the name of Buddy Atkinson. The disappearance of Buddy Atkinson was also considered one of the most peculiar vanishings of the area, with the hiker having been an experienced outdoorsman who suddenly disappeared while walking on along an amateur trail. After the unexplained disappearance of Stephen Paul Thomas, the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation put into place a new policy that has made it illegal to camp anywhere on Mount Marcy above the tree line. The tree line refers to a specific height on the mountain that is too high in elevation for trees to naturally grow and marks the area where the terrain takes on an almost tundra-like quality. It would never be explained why the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation would enact this new policy change, but officials working with the department constantly monitor the tree line and will fine or arrest individuals that make any attempt to cross that threshold. Perhaps even more interesting, however, is that the exact area where Stephen Paul Thomas had gone missing and where the group of men had decided to camp for the night was also where 8-year-old Douglas Legg had been reported missing that would somehow be connected with a classified Green Beret operation that took place on the mountain's summit. Additionally, Sherwood's dog's strange reaction to the area, with its high-pitched whining, growling and refusal to leave the tent while in the area, was also highly uncharacteristic of the dog, which was commonly described as having been very easygoing, well-trained, and excited for the hiking adventure. Most peculiar for investigators was the sudden weather change that made it nearly impossible for the group to have found their friend without first leaving the area. The unexplainable cold weather and severe winds would also make it difficult for the group to have descended the mountain to get immediate help. Precious time that could have been instrumental in locating Stephen Paul Thomas. To this day, any sign of Stephen Paul Thomas has yet to be discovered, and the Adirondacks, the location of the high peaks across the state of New York, has become a significant cluster of some of the most bizarre missing persons cases ever reported. In a significant disclosure, the FBI released an extensive collection of files detailing various encounters with unidentified flying objects. Among these records, one report stood out, drawing considerable attention for its in-depth accounts of these mysterious aerial phenomena. Not only did it document sightings of the crafts themselves, but it also provided intriguing insights into their occupants, the potential consequences of engaging them in combat, and the sophisticated technology integrated into their design and operation. The document reads as follows. A very serious situation may develop at any time with regard to the flying saucers. If one of these should be attacked, the attacking plane will almost certainly be destroyed. In the public mind, this might create near panic and international suspicion. The principal data concerning these craft is now at hand and must be offered, no matter how fantastic and unintelligible it may seem to minds not previously instructed in thinking of this type. Part of the disk carry crews, others are under control. Their mission is peaceful. The visitors contemplate settling on this planet. These visitors are human-like but much larger in size. They are not excarnate Earth people but come from their own world. They do not come from any planet as we use the word, but from another planet which interpenetrates with our own and is not perceptible to us. The bodies of the visitors and the craft also automatically materialize on entering the vibratory rate of our matter. The disks possess a type of radiant energy, or a ray which will easily disintegrate any attacking ship. They re-enter the etheric at will, and so simply disappear from our vision without a trace. The region from which they come is not the astral plane, but corresponds to the lokes or tails. Students of these matters will understand these terms. They probably cannot be reached by radian, but can be reached by radar if a signal system can be devised. End quote. One of the most compelling declassified documents ever released by the FBI provides astonishing insight into the existence of unidentified flying objects, their advanced technology, and even their occupants. This document, which surfaced through the Freedom of Information Act, details a series of UFO sightings and interactions that suggest a level of sophistication far beyond human capabilities. What makes this report even more extraordinary is its discussion of the potential consequences of engaging these unidentified crafts in combat, implying a level of awareness by authorities that these objects are not only real, but possibly intelligent and responsive. Many researchers and UFO enthusiasts have argued that this document alone serves as undeniable proof of disclosure, an official acknowledgement that extraterrestrial or non-human intelligence has made contact with Earth. The content of the document goes far beyond the typical UFO sighting reports that often include vague descriptions of lights in the sky or distant, unidentified objects. Instead, this report contains detailed observations of structured crafts exhibiting advanced propulsion systems that defy known laws of physics. Witness accounts describe objects maneuvering at incredible speeds, making abrupt directional changes that would be impossible for conventional aircraft, and even hovering silently before vanishing instantly. Such capabilities suggest the use of a propulsion system that is vastly different from anything currently available to human technology. Perhaps the most startling aspect of the document is its reference to the occupants of these unidentified crafts. According to the report, multiple credible sources have described seeing beings associated with the UFOs. These entities are often characterized as humanoid, but possessing distinct physical differences that set them apart from humans. The document suggests that these beings are not hostile but rather observant, appearing to study human activity with an intelligence that surpasses our own in many ways. The idea that these entities are actively monitoring Earth raises profound questions about their intentions, the extent of their knowledge, and the possibility of their involvement in human affairs. Even more intriguing is the document's discussion of what might happen if military forces were to engage these unidentified objects in combat. The report suggests that any form of aggression against these crafts would be not only futile, but potentially catastrophic. It implies that the technological superiority of these entities is so advanced that human weaponry would have little to no effect. In past encounters, UFOs have demonstrated an ability to disable electronic systems, rendering military defenses useless. Some accounts even suggest that aggressive actions against these crafts have resulted in immediate retaliatory responses, further proving their technological dominance. This raises the unsettling possibility that these entities possess an understanding of human behavior and are capable of responding accordingly. Another significant revelation within the document is its mention of the technology incorporated into these unidentified spacecraft. Analysts have pointed out that the propulsion systems described in the report align with theories of anti-gravity or zero-point energy, concepts that have long been speculated upon but remain far beyond human engineering capabilities. Unlike conventional aircraft, which rely on combustion engines and aerodynamic principles, these crafts appear to move effortlessly through the atmosphere, unaffected by gravitational forces or air resistance. This suggests a mastery of physics that humanity has yet to achieve, potentially offering a glimpse into energy sources that could revolutionize space travel and beyond. The release of this document has led many to conclude that the government has been aware of extraterrestrial activity for a long time, and that disclosure has already occurred, albeit in a subtle and controlled manner. While no government official has openly admitted to the existence of extraterrestrial intelligence, the implications of this document are difficult to ignore. If the information contained within is accurate, it means that non-human intelligence has been present on Earth, observing humanity and possibly interacting with our species in ways we have yet to fully comprehend. The sheer volume of consistent sightings, combined with the document's detailed descriptions and the credibility of its sources, makes such dismissals increasingly difficult to accept. Furthermore, the fact that this document was classified for so long raises the question of why such information was kept from the public. If there was nothing extraordinary about these encounters, why was it necessary to withhold them from public knowledge for decades? The implications of this declassified document extend far beyond the realm of UFO studies. If these crafts and their occupants are real, it fundamentally changes our understanding of humanity's place in the universe. It suggests that Earth has been under observation by an intelligence that surpasses our own, an intelligence that has chosen not to reveal itself openly, but has nonetheless made its presence known through a series of controlled appearances. It also raises ethical and philosophical questions about what kind of relationship, if any, humanity should establish with these entities. Should we attempt to communicate with them? Are they waiting for us to reach a certain level of technological or social development before making direct contact? Or have they already engaged with select individuals or government agencies in ways we have yet to uncover? As the discussion surrounding UFO disclosure continues to gain traction, this FBI document remains one of the most significant pieces of evidence supporting the idea that humanity is not alone. It is a testament to the fact that government agencies have been collecting and analyzing data on these mysterious occurrences for years, possibly even decades. While the full truth may still be hidden from public view, the release of this document marks an important step toward greater transparency. It forces us to confront the possibility that we have been visited by beings far more advanced than ourselves, and that their presence may have profound implications for the future of our civilization. These documents strongly suggest that world governments have been aware of these objects for many years, yet they have deliberately chosen not to disclose the full truth to the public. The primary reason behind this secrecy appears to be the concern over how society would react to such an unprecedented revelation. The fear of mass panic, the potential collapse of religious and societal structures, and the inability to provide concrete explanations all contribute to the reluctance of authorities to openly admit what has long been suspected, that we are not alone. The declassified documents offer undeniable proof that encounters with UFOs are neither rare nor new. Reports from military pilots, intelligence officers, and high-ranking officials consistently describe objects defying the laws of physics, making impossible maneuvers, and disappearing at speeds no known aircraft could achieve. These sightings span across decades, predating modern aviation and ruling out any possibility that they are merely misidentified human-made technology. Even more compelling is the fact that many of these reports come from credible government and military sources who have nothing to gain from fabricating such extraordinary claims. The secrecy surrounding these encounters raises an important question. Why would governments deliberately suppress information about UFOs? The answer lies in the potential consequences of public disclosure. The realization that non-human intelligence is actively present on Earth would shatter long-held beliefs about humanity's place in the universe. Religious institutions, which for centuries have based their teachings on the idea that humans are unique creations, could face existential crises. Governments, already struggling to maintain control over their populations, might fear widespread panic, civil unrest, or even a breakdown of social order. Additionally, if these UFOs are not only real but also possess advanced technology that far surpasses human capabilities, governments may be reluctant to admit that they have no control over them. National security is built on the premise that a country's military has the ability to defend itself against all threats. Acknowledging the presence of objects that can outmaneuver fighter jets, disable electronic systems, and evade detection would be an admission of powerlessness. This could not only undermine public trust, but also cause geopolitical instability as nations scramble to understand and potentially replicate this technology. Another reason for the continued secrecy may be that certain world powers have already made contact with these entities and are withholding that knowledge for strategic purposes. If a government had access to extraterrestrial technology, even in a limited capacity, it would be a game-changer for defense, space exploration, and energy production. The potential to reverse-engineer UFO propulsion systems, which appear to operate on principles beyond human physics, would provide an unprecedented technological advantage. Keeping such advancements classified would allow certain nations to maintain superiority, while ensuring that the general public remains unaware of what is truly possible. Ingo Swann was an extraordinary individual whose abilities challenged conventional understanding of human perception. As one of the most well-known remote viewers in history, Swann was directly involved in classified intelligence projects, including the CIA's Stargate project. His work with the agency led to remarkable revelations, particularly regarding the dark side of the moon. Swann claimed that his remote viewing sessions revealed mysterious bases, structures, and an extraterrestrial presence on the lunar surface. When the CIA declassified documents related to the Stargate project, Swann's involvement was confirmed, cementing his legacy as a pioneer in the field of remote viewing and expanding the discussion on extraterrestrial activity beyond Earth. Swann's journey into the realm of remote viewing began in the 1970s, when his abilities drew the attention of government agencies. Remote viewing is the practice of perceiving distant or hidden objects, locations, or events using only the mind. Swann demonstrated an uncanny ability to describe places and events with extraordinary accuracy, which made him an asset to intelligence operations. Recognizing the potential military and strategic applications of this ability, the CIA recruited Swann to participate in experiments designed to assess and harness his talents for classified missions. The Stargate project, a top-secret program initiated by the US government, sought to explore and utilize psychic phenomena for intelligence purposes. The program was created at the height of the Cold War, with government agencies believing that psychic abilities could be weaponized for espionage and reconnaissance. Swann was among the select individuals tasked with gathering information about distant or inaccessible locations through remote viewing. While many of these operations focused on earthly targets, the most astonishing aspect of Swann's work involved remote viewing sessions targeting the moon. Swann claimed that during his remote viewing sessions, he perceived unusual activity on the far side of the moon, which remains hidden from direct view due to tidal locking. According to his accounts, he observed massive structures, some of which resembled large domes and artificial installations. He described seeing complex networks of buildings, roads, and even evidence of advanced technology. More disturbingly, Swann reported witnessing an extraterrestrial presence on the moon. He believed that non-human entities were operating these bases, engaged in activities beyond human comprehension. What made Swan's revelations particularly compelling was the sense of urgency and secrecy that surrounded his findings. He stated that during his remote viewing session, he felt as though the entities on the moon became aware of his presence. He described an overwhelming sensation of being watched and even pursued, as though these extraterrestrial beings could detect his consciousness probing their domain. This unsettling experience led him to believe that whatever was happening on the moon was not meant to be discovered by humanity. Swan's accounts align with various conspiracy theories and reports suggesting that NASA and other space agencies have concealed knowledge of extraterrestrial activity on the moon. Some theorists argue that the Apollo missions encountered evidence of alien structures but were forced into silence. Others suggest that the reason for NASA's abrupt cessation of manned lunar missions after Apollo 17 was due to an encounter with an intelligent extraterrestrial presence. Swan's remote viewing data provided further support for these theories, indicating that the moon might be far more than just a barren rock orbiting Earth. When the CIA declassified documents related to the Stargate project, Swan's participation was officially confirmed. While the released documents did not provide detailed descriptions of his findings regarding the moon, they verified that Swan had been actively involved in high-level remote viewing experiments for intelligence-gathering purposes. The government's acknowledgement of his work lent credibility to the idea that his abilities were taken seriously at the highest levels. It also raised critical questions about what information regarding extraterrestrial activity may still be classified. Swan's experiences have had a lasting impact on the fields of ufology and paranormal research. Many researchers and enthusiasts view his accounts as some of the most compelling evidence suggesting that extraterrestrials have established a presence within our solar system. His revelations have led to increased scrutiny of lunar anomalies, with independent researchers examining photographs and satellite images for signs of artificial structures. Over the years, several images from lunar orbiters have shown unexplained geometric formations and shadowy shapes that resemble towers, domes, and even underground entrances. These findings, coupled with Swan's testimony, suggest that the moon may not be as desolate as mainstream science claims. Despite skepticism from traditional scientists and space agencies, Swan's credibility as a remote viewer remains intact. Many of his other remote viewing sessions, including descriptions of classified Soviet facilities, were later verified as accurate. His work within the Stargate project demonstrated that remote viewing was considered a valuable intelligence tool by the US government. If his abilities were trusted to gather sensitive information on Earth, it stands to reason that his findings regarding the moon should not be dismissed without further investigation. Swan's revelations also raise deeper philosophical and existential questions about humanity's place in the cosmos. If intelligent life is operating on the moon, what is their purpose? Are they observers, guardians, or something else entirely? If governments have known about these extraterrestrial bases, why has this information been withheld from the public? These questions remain unanswered, but Swan's accounts suggest that the truth is far more complex than we have been led to believe. As humanity prepares for a return to the moon with upcoming Artemis missions and potential lunar colonization, the revelations of Ingo Swann take on new significance. If there are indeed structures and extraterrestrial activity on the moon, future astronauts may soon be faced with encounters that challenge our understanding of reality. Swann's work suggests that we may not be alone in our celestial neighborhood, and that the moon holds secrets that could redefine our view of the universe. The story of Ingo Swann is one of intrigue, secrecy, and revelation. His remote viewing sessions, confirmed by the CIA's declassified documents, indicate that the US government actively explored non-traditional intelligence-gathering methods, including investigating extraterrestrial activity on the moon. His findings, which describe artificial structures and alien presence, provide a fascinating perspective that challenges mainstream narratives about the moon's desolation. Whether viewed as groundbreaking truth or unsettling mystery, Swann's legacy continues to inspire those seeking answers about the hidden forces shaping our universe. The far side of the moon has long been a source of intrigue and speculation, with many believing that it harbors secrets hidden from the public eye. While mainstream science presents the moon as a barren and lifeless rock, Multiple accounts from anonymous remote viewers and NASA whistleblowers suggest otherwise. These individuals claim that mysterious bases, artificial structures, and even extraterrestrial activity exist on the Moon's hidden hemisphere. Their testimonies, combined with leaked images and suppressed reports, have led many to believe that a cover-up is taking place, deliberately concealing the truth about what lies beyond humanity's reach. Remote viewing, a practice once studied by the US government for intelligence-gathering purposes, has yielded astonishing results when applied to the Moon. Anonymous remote viewers have reported visions of vast underground facilities, towering structures, and signs of advanced technology on the lunar surface. These descriptions align with earlier claims made by renowned remote viewer Ingo Swann, who participated in the CIA's Stargate project. Swann's experiences, in which he allegedly encountered an extraterrestrial presence on the Moon, have been echoed by other remote viewers who describe similar findings. The consistency in these reports suggests that they are not mere coincidences, but rather glimpses into a hidden reality. Some remote viewers claim that the Moon is home to massive domed cities, seemingly constructed by an advanced civilization. Others describe tunnels and underground chambers that appear to be artificially designed rather than naturally formed. They insist that these structures are actively maintained and possibly inhabited by unknown entities. In some cases, remote viewers have reported sensing an overwhelming presence watching them during their sessions, as if their consciousness had been detected by non-human intelligence. These experiences mirror Swann's account of feeling observed by lunar inhabitants, further solidifying the belief that something extraordinary is happening on the Moon's far side. In addition to remote viewers, NASA whistleblowers have also come forward with startling claims regarding the existence of secret lunar bases. Over the years, former NASA employees, military personnel, and contractors have provided testimonies that challenge the official narrative. One of the most well-known whistleblowers, Carl Wolf, who worked with the US Air Force, revealed that he saw classified images of artificial structures on the Moon while handling data from NASA's Lunar Orbiter program. Wolf claimed that a fellow technician showed him photographs displaying towering buildings and domes on the far side of the Moon. According to Wolf, these images were quickly suppressed, and the existence of such structures was never disclosed to the public. Another former NASA employee, Donna Hare, also made shocking allegations about NASA's involvement in covering up evidence of extraterrestrial activity. Hare, who worked as a photo technician for NASA contractors, stated that images containing UFOs and unusual structures were routinely edited before being released to the public. She revealed that astronauts and personnel were sworn to secrecy regarding what they had seen, reinforcing the idea that NASA actively conceals information about what truly exists beyond Earth. Hare's statements align with those of other whistleblowers who claim that significant discoveries about the Moon have been deliberately hidden. One of the most compelling pieces of evidence supporting the cover-up theory is the abrupt end of manned lunar missions after Apollo 17 in 1972. NASA had originally planned additional Apollo missions, yet these were cancelled without clear explanation. Some theorists argue that this decision was not due to budget constraints, as officially stated, but because astronauts had encountered something on the Moon that made further exploration too dangerous. Reports suggest that during the Apollo missions, astronauts witnessed unexplained craft monitoring their activities and were even warned to leave the Moon. If these accounts are true, it would explain why humanity has not returned to the lunar surface in over 5 decades. Leaked NASA images and satellite photographs have further fueled suspicions about a lunar cover-up. Over the years, researchers analyzing high-resolution Moon images have pointed out unusual structures that appear artificial in nature. In the age of the internet, YouTube has become a platform where creators share content ranging from the mundane to the extraordinary. Among these creators was a YouTuber known as Funky Fathead, who gained a modest following for his eclectic mix of content, including technology tutorials, paranormal investigations, and explorations into the unknown. Funky Fathead's channel took a dark and mysterious turn when he posted a video demonstrating how to open a portal. Shortly after uploading this video, Funky Fathead vanished without a trace. He states in 2 earlier videos that there appears to be a fracture in space in his bedroom, caused by 2 different frequencies. He blends the two frequencies in his most current video, displaying what seems to be a Sedona doorway. He was known for his mysterious videos, often pushing the boundaries of conventional knowledge. In one of his final videos, he claimed to have discovered a method to open a portal using specific frequencies and a generator. In the video, Funky Fathead explained that he had stumbled upon ancient texts and modern scientific theories, suggesting that certain sound frequencies could alter the fabric of reality. He demonstrated how to use a generator, showing viewers the specific frequencies needed to create what he described as a resonant field capable of opening a portal. As the tones played, the camera captured strange visual distortions. The room appeared to shimmer, and objects near the tone generator seemed to vibrate. Toward the end of the video, a small portal appears to open. Following the upload of his final video, the user vanished. Concerned fans and fellow YouTubers attempted to contact him, but received no response. His social media accounts went silent, and repeated efforts to locate him through official channels yielded no results. News organizations reportedly tried to get in touch with him, but were unable. Researchers studying the paranormal have suggested that he might have been singled out and instructed to cease publishing because of the mysterious portal that he purportedly established in his video. One commenter noted that even if the videos were fake, they still got people interested in the topic, which might have been the reason for his disappearance. Strangely enough, many people have vanished over the years after being open and discussing these subjects. This has led some to speculate that there may have been involvement from higher powers. The most sensational theory is that Funky Fathead successfully opened a portal and stepped into another dimension. Supporters of this theory argue that the visual and audio phenomena captured in the video provide compelling evidence that he managed to manipulate the fabric of reality. They suggest that he may be trapped in another realm or exploring an alternate universe, unable to return. Skeptics propose that the video was a cleverly crafted hoax, using digital effects to create the illusion of a portal. They argue that Funky Fathead may have staged his disappearance to generate buzz and intrigue, capitalizing on the viral potential of his video. According to this theory, he could be living under a new identity or planning a dramatic return to the public eye. The disappearance of Funky Fathead, following his mysterious video on opening a portal using a computerized tone generator, remains one of the most strangest stories in the digital age. Whether viewed as a genuine experiment gone awry, a masterful hoax, or a manifestation of personal struggles, the case of Funky Fathead captivates the imagination and challenges our understanding of reality. Did ancient civilizations use sound and frequency to achieve what they did? Ancient societies used advanced acoustic techniques to construct places that were not only visually attractive, but also resonant and reverberant, as seen in the pyramids of Egypt and the Greek temples. It is an engineering miracle that no one can quite figure out how the Great Pyramids were built. However, some academics think that the Egyptians achieved this accomplishment by using vibration and frequency. It's possible that they vibrated the stone with sound waves to facilitate movement. It's possible that they employed sound waves to both sculpt and lift the stone into position. All things in the cosmos have a unique vibration or frequency, according to the ancient Egyptians, and everything is connected. In addition, they thought that these frequencies might be utilized for communication, healing, and perhaps physical world manipulation. They thought they could harness the power of the universe by comprehending its vibrations. The sound chambers are one of the Great Pyramid's most fascinating elements. These chambers have special acoustic qualities and are situated far within the pyramids. These chambers have a distinctive echo that is produced when sound is made inside of them. According to some experts, the Egyptians might have performed ritualistic acts like singing or chanting in these chambers. There are significant parallels between the Egyptian knowledge of frequency and vibration and many contemporary applications. The foundation of both is the idea that everything in the cosmos vibrates at a particular frequency. Both think that these holy frequencies can be utilized to communicate, heal, and even control the material world. Both hold that we can harness the power of the universe by comprehending its vibrations. The idea that frequency and vibration could have been used in ancient construction is rooted in the principles of physics and acoustics. Modern science has demonstrated that sound waves can exert force and manipulate objects under certain conditions. Acoustic levitation involves the use of high-frequency sound waves to create standing waves that can lift and suspend objects in the air. This phenomenon occurs when sound waves create regions of high and low pressure, effectively counteracting gravity. While modern acoustic levitation typically involves small objects, some researchers speculate that ancient cultures might have developed techniques to scale up this process for larger stones. Resonance is another principle that could have been harnessed by ancient builders. When an object vibrates at its natural frequency, it can achieve resonance, leading to amplified vibrations. These amplified vibrations could potentially be used to weaken the structural integrity of stone, making it easier to cut or shape. Ancient tools and instruments, such as tuning forks or specially designed resonant chambers, might have been employed to achieve this effect. Cymatics is the study of visible sound and vibration patterns. When a surface is exposed to sound waves, it can produce intricate patterns and shapes. Ancient cultures might have used cymatic principles to design tools or techniques that harnessed the power of sound to influence materials. This knowledge could have been applied to move or shape stones in construction. The theory that ancient cultures used frequency and vibration in construction has broader implications for our understanding of ancient technologies and knowledge systems. It challenges conventional views of ancient engineering and suggests that these cultures might have had access to sophisticated techniques that have been lost or forgotten over time. If ancient builders did indeed use sound and vibration, it would require a re-evaluation of their technological and scientific knowledge. This perspective highlights the possibility that ancient cultures possessed advanced understanding of acoustics, physics, and materials science. It also underscores the importance of interdisciplinary research in uncovering these lost technologies. Exploring ancient techniques involving frequency and vibration can inspire modern engineering and architectural practices. Understanding how sound and vibration can manipulate materials might lead to innovative construction methods, reducing the need for heavy machinery and lowering environmental impact. Additionally, these principles could be applied in other fields, such as medicine and manufacturing, to develop new technologies. This United States program spent millions of dollars investigating stargates and wormholes. The history of the United States is intriguing. Investigators have been able to uncover some of the US's most dubious actions over the years. This dubious past is what has caused some people to demand further explanations. You only discover that reality is stranger than fiction when you begin looking into and studying some of these investigations that they conducted. Numerous declassified documents have been leaked online over the last few years. Interestingly, most of these leaks occurred covertly. Nonetheless, amateur researchers have poured many hours into poring over these old records, and while some of them only summarize irrelevant information, others are true eye-openers. One of the more intriguing ones that was made public through declassified networks and the Freedom of Information Act described how the US government had used tax dollars to study topics such as stargates, wormholes, cloaking technologies, and high-energy weapons. These documents alone show that funding was provided for 38 covert government programs. The rest of the paper, up to page 38, describes dark energy and warp energy. Researchers found the metamaterials for aerospace application to be particularly noteworthy. Metamaterials are defined as materials that unidentified flying objects have left behind. According to a different expert, the US government has been studying these subjects for some time and is making progress towards interplanetary travel. The fact that the government will gladly spend taxpayers' money on these discoveries but then withholds the information from the public, a practice that many believe is unfair given that the public funds these initiatives, is one of the things that irritates people about these discoveries. Furthermore, as several amateur researchers have noted, these are only the initiatives that we are aware of. There are probably hundreds more out there that we are unaware of and will never get published. It is to be expected that numerous documents such as this are available online, the problem being that finding them can be a challenge. Approximately 13 million pages of US Central Intelligence Agency declassified records were made available online back in 2017. Project Stargate was one investigation that caught people's attention. The Stargate project, conducted by the US government during the Cold War, remains one of the most intriguing and controversial programs in modern history. Officially, it aimed to investigate the potential for psychic phenomena, such as remote viewing, to be used in intelligence gathering. The Stargate project began in the early 1970s, primarily driven by concerns that the Soviet Union was investing heavily in psychic research for espionage purposes. In response, the US Central Intelligence Agency, along with other intelligence agencies, initiated their own program to explore the potential of psychic phenomena, particularly remote viewing, as a tool for intelligence gathering. Remote viewing is the practice of attempting to perceive distant or unseen targets using extrasensory perception. Proponents of the practice believe that individuals can acquire information about a person, place, or object without the use of traditional senses. The CIA contracted the Stanford Research Institute in California to conduct experiments and develop methodologies for remote viewing. The Stargate project employed various methodologies to test and refine the practice of remote viewing. The experiments typically involved a viewer who would attempt to describe a hidden target, which could be a location, object, or even a person, based on minimal or no information. Two of the most famous remote viewers associated with the Stargate project were Pat Price and Ingo Swann. Price, a former police officer, and Swann, an artist and psychic, claimed to have exceptional remote viewing abilities. Their sessions reportedly produced highly accurate descriptions of secret military installations and other targets, garnering significant attention from the intelligence community. For instance, in one experiment, Price was asked to describe a Soviet site based on its coordinates. He provided detailed descriptions of the layout and activities within the site, which were later corroborated by satellite imagery. Similarly, Swann's remote viewing sessions included detailed sketches and descriptions that aligned with known details of the target locations. The experiments were conducted under controlled laboratory conditions to ensure the validity of the results. Double-blind protocols were used, where neither the remote viewer nor the experimenters knew the target in advance. These measures were intended to eliminate bias and chance as explanations for the remote viewer's successes. As mentioned, the United States swiftly funded and launched Project Stargate out of concern that the Soviet Union had discovered a new kind of spiritual technology. The program's specific goals included studying the phenomenon of remote viewing and employing psychic soldiers to gather data from various locations on Earth without physically being there. In 1972, the Stanford Research Institute, based in Menlo Park, California, started conducting research on remote seeing. Before someone could be admitted into the study, the principal researchers, Harold Puthoff and Russell Targ, stipulated that their estimates had to be accurate to a minimum of 65%. They also claimed that many of the participants fared better than this threshold, albeit not all of them were perfect. Rosemary Smith, a psychic involved in the operation, was able to identify a lost Soviet spy plane in 1976, shortly after it started. Over time, the crew also received claims of returned high-value targets. Due to claims that the research group's findings were accurate because of independent detective work done outside of its purview, the CIA administration cancelled Project Stargate in 1995 due to advancements in satellite and surveillance technology. The CIA believed the project was a publicity stunt. In spite of this, many people think that the project continued and that this technique is still in use today. Though such subjects may seem utopian, we have evidence of their existence, and the government agency was sufficiently convinced of them to commit hundreds of millions of dollars to the programs. We will never be able to know the result of these trials or what would happen to the individuals who took part. One of the problems people have is trust. For decades, the public has been questioning government officials about these initiatives, and each time they have been questioned, they have denied that they ever occurred. However, it has now come to light that these kinds of projects have been under investigation all along. This is the primary cause of the public's lack of trust in politicians when they discuss these kinds of subjects. A few have even expressed doubts that most of these studies actually came to an end, stating that it is more likely that they were simply renamed under a different project and are probably still being explored today. The vastness and intricacy of our world continue to captivate and bewilder us. With each passing day, we are confronted with astonishing discoveries that serve as a constant reminder of how much more there is to learn about our surroundings. Among the many intriguing phenomena circulating on social media, there is a photograph that has captured widespread attention. It purportedly depicts a colossal object traversing the expansive dunes of the Sahara Desert. The appearance of this enigmatic object has left observers perplexed and questioning the plausibility of such an immense entity journeying across such distances. This remarkable photograph has sparked a multitude of inquiries and speculation. How is it possible for an object of such magnitude to navigate the treacherous terrain of the desert? According to one user's suggestion, the large object in question could potentially be a stone that descended from one of the nearby mountains, thereby resulting in the substantial skid mark observed. However, an interesting point arises when examining the measurements, as the skid mark stretches over an impressive distance of 981 meters. This has raised doubts among some individuals regarding the plausibility of wind being capable of carrying such a massive object for such a considerable distance. The extended length of the skid mark has sparked speculation and prompted further inquiry into the likelihood of atmospheric forces being responsible for its transport. In response to the user's comment, another individual expressed their curiosity about the origin of the object, suggesting the possibility that it may have come from outer space. The observer further speculated that the object in question could potentially be a meteorite, and the visible trail behind it could be attributed to the impact of the object colliding with the ground. This insightful observation leads one to contemplate the fascinating concept of extraterrestrial bodies entering our planet. The notion that this idea is not entirely implausible gains credibility when considering that one of the most ancient meteorites ever unearthed was discovered in the vast expanse of the Sahara Desert. It has been determined by scientists that this extraterrestrial artifact dates back a staggering 4.6 billion years. Other individuals who had the opportunity to observe the photographs put forth more unconventional speculations. They proposed that the object in question could potentially be an advanced aircraft that had encountered a crash landing on the ground. One key observation they made was that the appearance of the object did not resemble that of a typical rock or a component of the surrounding mountains. Their reasoning behind this hypothesis was that something of such magnitude, which left a skid mark stretching over 40 meters, must have possessed considerable dimensions. Interestingly, astute observers pointed out that the starting point of the skid mark exhibited no indications of a mountain or an elevated region. This prompted some to assert that had the object originated from a mountain, there would have been a conspicuous absence of the mountain itself, accompanied by a noticeable gap. It is worth noting that such omissions cannot be detected in any of the photographs. As of right now, these photographs are still generating discussions online, with people confused as to how such a large structure would be able to slide across the Sahara Desert. Those who put forward the idea of the object moving via the use of ice sheets or wet areas should note that on average, the Sahara gets between 0 and 2 inches of rain per year, although some locations can go without rain for several years. Although this explanation may seem like the most likely answer, it's unlikely that such a large object would be able to move across the sands of Egypt with so little water. Even this theory is disputed among researchers, with some saying that more data is needed, and noting that the stones that have been moved via water are very small, under 20 inches in diameter. The object just photographed in the Sahara Desert measures in at over 84 meters in length. As some have pointed out as well, let's say that this object is a rock. Natural crushed rocks that measure between 10 and 20 inches weigh approximately 1.1 tons per cubic meter, with solid rock measuring in at 2.5 to 3 tons per cubic meter. One individual expressed their curiosity by stating the following: "While I do not necessarily propose a mysterious explanation, it is baffling to consider how an object of such considerable size could be displaced solely by wind or rain. Moreover, there is no mountain in proximity from which this object could have toppled. If the object had originated from the opposite side, where observable mountains exist, we could possibly attribute it to a substantial rock. However, this still does not account for the peculiar occurrence of a rock of such magnitude sliding across thousands of meters on sand. It is one of those perplexing circumstances that becomes increasingly bizarre the more one contemplates it." End quote. It is not uncommon for rocks to exhibit independent movement, and although the sliding rocks in Death Valley are not comparable in size to the aforementioned object, they represent a peculiar phenomenon that has been observed exclusively in this geographical location. The enigmatic Death Valley sailing stones have captivated researchers as they manifest the ability to initiate motion and leave marked trails across the smooth valley floor, all without any apparent human or animal involvement. This intriguing behavior occurs at various times throughout the day, with the rocks commencing their displacement and imprinting long tracks that can stretch over considerable distances or even abruptly change direction by executing a complete turnaround or making precise 90-degree turns. The scientific community has proposed multiple hypotheses to explain this mystifying rock movement. One widely accepted explanation postulates that a delicate balance of unique circumstances comes into play, resulting in the rocks gliding gradually over a subterranean frozen sheet of ice while taking advantage of optimal wind conditions generated by the distinct topography of the valley. Delving deeper into the subject, it becomes evident that the rocky journey is facilitated by the presence of specific conditions. These conditions arise naturally and work in conjunction to allow the stones to exploit the surface of the frozen ice below, acting as a slick track for their gradual progression. Furthermore, the geography of the valley contributes to the creation of favorable wind patterns that exert force upon the rocks, further propelling their movement. The occurrence of these extraordinary phenomena in Death Valley, recorded nowhere else on Earth, has sparked extensive research and investigation into the underlying mechanisms responsible for this fascinating natural spectacle. Scientists and experts continue to explore and analyze various factors, striving to unravel the mysteries surrounding the enigmatic movement of these remarkable sailing stones. Surprisingly, there is a lack of definitive evidence to support the notion of stone movement, as there are no records or direct observations documenting the rock's motion. This absence of proof has led some to speculate that there might be an alternative mechanism at work, giving rise to the concept of ley lines and peculiar electromagnetic phenomena observed at specific locations worldwide. Interestingly, this hypothesis holds considerable merit, as research has indicated that volcanic rock can indeed exhibit electromagnetic properties, much like what has been observed in other parts of the globe. Furthermore, investigations into the phenomenon have disproven the possibility of buoyancy-based mechanisms being responsible for the rock's displacement, specifically based on data from 2014. In addition, additional evidence suggests that the natural materials contained within these stones could possess magnetic properties and could potentially be influenced by electromagnetic forces. When considering all of these factors, it becomes evident that there is a need for further in-depth research to enrich our understanding of this intriguing phenomenon. The mysterious fortress. Archaeologists have recently uncovered remarkable evidence of real-life castles in the sand, constructed by an ancient culture in the Sahara Desert. According to recent satellite images, a significant discovery has been made in southwestern Libya, revealing over 100 fortress settlements belonging to a previously unknown or lost civilization. The ancient settlements, existing from approximately AD 1 to 500, were associated with a highly developed and enigmatic civilization known as the Garamantes. The Garamantes, who exercised their dominion over the region from around the 2nd century BC to the 7th century AD, governed these communities. During their investigation, researchers made a remarkable discovery by examining contemporary satellite imagery, including high-resolution images employed by the oil industry, as well as aerial photographs captured in the 1950s and 1960s. These findings unveiled the presence of fortified settlements, towns, villages, and agricultural lands belonging to the ancient Garamantes civilization. Situated approximately 620 miles, or 1,000 kilometers to the south of Tripoli, the fortresses have been officially identified through the analysis of Garamantes pottery samples that were gathered during a research mission in early 2011. Project leader David Mattingly, hailing from the esteemed University of Leicester in the United Kingdom, expressed his deep astonishment at the remarkable level of preservation observed within the ancient mud brick compounds. The archaeologist shared that despite some slight slumping caused by wind erosion, the walls of these historical sites remain resilient, standing tall at heights ranging from 3 to 4 meters or 10 to 13 feet in certain areas. This enduring state of the walls lends insight into their stability and longevity, even in the face of natural forces. Archaeologists, upon witnessing the meticulous and precisely laid out architecture, could have been in danger of misidentifying the construction as Roman frontier forts due to their striking similarities in design. According to researchers, it is important to note that these sites extend far beyond the borders of the Roman Empire. In fact, they serve as significant indicators of a prominent African kingdom that held immense power and influence. In addition, it was a surprising revelation for the scientists to discover that these sites, consisting of burial grounds and agricultural fields, are densely concentrated in close proximity to each other. In this particular case, it is worth noting that within an expanse of 1.5 square miles, which equates to approximately 4 square kilometers, there existed no less than 10 well-established settlements of a significant size. The existing information regarding the Garamantes primarily stems from archaeological digs conducted at their capital city Jama, located approximately 125 miles northwest of their domain. Furthermore, insights into the Garamantes are derived from ancient Roman and Greek texts, offering valuable accounts that aid in understanding their civilization. According to Mattingly, the perception of the lost lords of the Sahara suggests that they were an advanced and sophisticated civilization. This characterization, as described in National Geographic magazine, highlights their elevated status and intellectual prowess. According to the expert, the society in question can be identified as having advanced in various areas, including metallurgy, the production of high-quality textiles, and the development of a writing system. These significant indicators suggest the presence of a well-organized and highly structured state-level society. According to Philip Kenrick, an archaeologist from the University of Oxford who was not involved in the new research, the heritage authorities in Libya, plagued by a lack of funds, have been unable to carry out field research, resulting in a significant gap in our understanding of the ancient civilization. This financial constraint has hindered their ability to delve deeper into the knowledge and exploration of this rich historical legacy. The recently discovered archaeological findings serve as a profound testament to the ingenious irrigation methods employed by the ancient civilization of the Garamantes. According to the project leader Mattingly, the region under consideration is characterized by a profoundly arid environment found in the Saharan desert, known as hyper-arid. The Garamantes, an ancient civilization, ingeniously tapped into prehistoric water sources by constructing elaborate underground canals. These canals served not only as a means to extract water, but also as a method to cultivate a diverse range of crops. The Sumerian civilization, nestled in the fertile lands of Mesopotamia, is renowned for its pioneering contributions to human history. Among its many achievements, the Sumerians left behind intricate carvings and artifacts that offer tantalizing hints of their advanced understanding of various aspects of life. A subject of intrigue and debate in recent times has been the presence of what appear to be timekeeping devices, often referred to as Sumerian watches, depicted in these ancient carvings. Intriguing carvings and depictions found in Sumerian artifacts have captivated researchers and enthusiasts alike. Among these carvings, some appear to portray what modern eyes might interpret as wristwatches. These objects, nestled on the wrists of various figures, stand out as anomalies within the context of ancient Mesopotamia. The Sumerians were renowned for their advanced understanding of various scientific, mathematical, and astronomical concepts. They were early architects of complex mathematics, the cuneiform writing system, and even the concept of the 60-minute hour. However, the existence of wristwatch-like devices raises questions about their potential knowledge of timekeeping mechanisms that would seem technologically incongruous for their era. In the carvings, individuals are depicted with cylindrical objects resembling modern wristwatches on their wrists. These objects display circular shapes and are accompanied by peculiar appendages that suggest possible crowns or dials. The specificity of their placement and design has led to speculation that these depictions could indeed represent timekeeping devices of some kind. While the idea of wristwatches in ancient Mesopotamia may seem anachronistic, it's important to remember that ancient civilizations had various means of measuring time, often using sundials, water clocks, and celestial observations. The Sumerians, with their advanced knowledge of astronomy, might have devised mechanisms to track time with impressive accuracy, even if they differ significantly from modern wristwatches. Some scholars argue that the wristwatch-like objects may not have been intended to represent functional timekeeping devices. Instead, they suggest that these objects could carry symbolic or ritualistic significance. In ancient cultures, time was often intertwined with religious and cosmic beliefs, and the depiction of these objects could have carried deeper meanings related to the passage of time and the cosmos. The presence of these wristwatch-like objects highlights the complexity of Sumerian culture and the intricacies of their artistic representation. Whether the carvings truly depict timekeeping devices or not, they provide a unique window into the Sumerian perception of time and the objects they associated with it. The depiction of wristwatch-like objects on Sumerian carvings remains a subject of intense debate. Skeptics argue that these objects could be simple adornments, amulets, or representations of tools unrelated to timekeeping. Furthermore, they point out the limitations of Sumerian technology in producing actual wristwatches as we understand them today. The presence of Sumerian watches on ancient carvings invites us to reflect on the challenges of interpreting artifacts from bygone eras. It underscores the delicate balance between recognizing the sophistication of ancient civilizations and avoiding the imposition of modern perspectives onto their achievements. Regardless of whether the wristwatch-like objects were functional timekeeping devices, symbols of cosmic significance, or artistic renderings, they serve as a reminder of the mysteries that linger in the shadows of ancient history. These enigmatic carvings compel us to continue our exploration of the Sumerian civilization, its beliefs, and its contributions to human progress. The Sumerians' knowledge of the cosmos. The clay disc contains a star map from ancient Sumerian civilization. The ancient Sumerians had a certain level of astronomical knowledge, as seen in their records. Unfortunately, much of this knowledge has been lost over time, and only a few fragments remain to give us a glimpse into their understanding of the universe. The Babylonian astronomical knowledge, in comparison to the later standards of Babylonian astronomy, seems relatively rudimentary. Ancient clay tablets from Babylon that have withstood the test of time since the beginning of Mesopotamian civilization document the earliest recorded instance of a total solar eclipse observed in Ugarit. The majority of our knowledge regarding their involvement in ancient astronomy comes from the Babylonian culture, which indirectly transmitted this information. In early Babylonian records, Sumerian star names are used, indicating the existence of a shared body of knowledge that was passed down through generations. A Sumerian seal depicts the sun positioned in the middle of 11 celestial objects. The Sumerians appeared to possess knowledge of the heliocentric nature of the solar system. Within certain tablets, they documented the presence of 11 celestial bodies or planets. The celestial bodies known as planets and moons, traditionally totaling 9 planets and 2 moons, have been observed. However, there is some uncertainty surrounding the exact composition and understanding of these bodies in relation to their rotation around the sun. A 12th celestial object has been discovered outside of our solar system. Scientists are currently engaged in the endeavor of identifying an entity that potentially exists in an orbit beyond the outer planets of our solar system. The knowledge of our solar system was already present among the Sumerians, who lived about 3,000 years before the ancient Greek astronomers. They recorded their understanding of the solar system on clay tablets, using cuneiform writing and illustrations. This information predates the ancient Greeks' knowledge of the subject by several millennia. The Sumerian civilization is widely regarded as the birthplace of human civilization and is recognized as the oldest in human history, with a history that dates back more than 8,000 years. This ancient settlement and civilization emerged in the region known as Mesopotamia, which encompasses present-day Iraq, parts of Iran, Anatolia, and Central Asia. The Sumerians had a highly developed culture and society, encompassing a well-established government, educational institutions, social structure, reliable food sources, religious beliefs, artistic expression, advanced mathematics, astronomy, astrology, medicine, various technologies, and numerous significant innovations. The ancient civilization developed a method of written communication utilizing wedge-shaped symbols known as cuneiform. They meticulously recorded their historical information and documents on clay tablets. Moreover, they demonstrated their innovation by creating musical instruments like the golden harp, as well as crafting exquisite jewelry, metallic objects, stoneware, and textiles. In the Sumerian cosmology, the universe was intricately woven with mythology and spirituality. The Sumerians believed that the universe was populated by a pantheon of deities who held sway over various aspects of existence. Enlil, the god of air and storms, and Anu, the god of the heavens, were just a few of the celestial beings believed to influence human affairs. The Sumerians closely observed the movements of celestial bodies, attributing significance to their positions in the sky. The cyclical patterns of the sun, moon, and stars were seen as reflections of the divine will, affecting everything from agricultural cycles to the fates of kings and kingdoms. The celestial bodies were considered divine messengers, carrying messages from the gods to the earthly realm. Ziggurats, towering stepped temples, were architectural marvels that dominated Sumerian cityscapes. These structures held profound cosmological significance, often being built with precise astronomical alignments. Ziggurats were designed to mirror the celestial order, with their corners aligned to the cardinal points of the compass, paying homage to the heavens and symbolizing the connection between the earthly and divine realms. The Sumerians believed in a hierarchical cosmic order where the divine and mortal realms were intricately interconnected. They viewed the universe as a structured continuum, with the gods residing in the heavens above and humans inhabiting the earthly plane. This belief fostered a sense of responsibility to maintain harmony and appease the deities through offerings and prayers. Their strange creation myth. One of the biggest mysteries of the ancient Sumerian culture appears to be that of the inspiration and tale of their mysterious creation myth. According to the ancient Sumerians, their oldest scriptures tell of the earth being inhabited by human-like gods that had come from the stars. These beings made attempts to make the world habitable and quickly began to toil the soil and mine the world for minerals that could be used. After a while, the gods referred that their labor was too great and refused to have to work at such an impossible task on their own. This led to one of the gods proposing to create human beings that could be made in their likeness using the body of another god of whom they could force to work to gather minerals and toil the ground. Originally, the humans that had been created were unable to reproduce and have children, as the gods were fearful of them multiplying. However, this quickly changed after two gods granted humans the ability to reproduce, allowing them to also leave the Eden they inhabited, a land that is translated to mean a flat terrain. This angered one of the gods, leading to a massive conflict to which one of the gods became the enemy of man and the other became the ruler of man, and allowed them to be fruitful and multiply over the world. These terms of modifications, creation, and the formation of an Eden have left many wondering instead that perhaps these ancient biblically similar accounts are evidence of advanced beings having genetically created and modified humans as a labor force, only to be given equal rights and abilities that have slowly evolved. The mysterious origin of their language. Though many aspects of the ancient Sumerian origins are shrouded in mystery, there is none more so mysterious than that of the origin and formation of the ancient Sumerian spoken language that is possibly among one of the oldest spoken and written languages in the history of humanity. When the first few written artifacts were gathered from that of the ancient Sumerian civilization, many believed that the spoken language of the ancient civilization was that of Akkadian, a language used by the Semitic people throughout the region, as the written alphabet of cuneiform seemed to have matched the Akkadian writings and styles. Further gathered evidence proved that the language of the people was a distinct language now completely forgotten, with no surviving remnants of the spoken dialect that predated the Akkadian usage, as well as being the first formed written language in history, soon being adopted by the Semitic people and used as a written language for many more millennia after the fall of the ancient Sumerian civilization. This loss of the language have left many experts puzzling over its formation, influence, and possible similar-sounding language descendants in the modern day, to trace the evolution of language across humanity. Though it was, at one time, believed that the Akkadian language was similar to that of the Sumerian, given the adoption of cuneiform, it is now known that the language may not have sounded anything alike and seems to be a relic of the past, with no evidence or trace of such a dialect existing in the modern day. Uncovering the mysteries of the language could prove to help researchers to better understand the formation of languages, the evolution of languages over time, as well as the major influences that the ancient Sumerian civilization had, being one of the first ever civilizations to have risen around the world. Throughout history, various ancient civilizations and cultures have left behind intriguing artifacts and symbols that continue to baffle archaeologists and historians. One enigmatic motif that has captured attention is the depiction of a handbag in ancient carvings, sculptures, and artworks found across different countries and cultures. Interestingly, a man came forward and said that he discovered one of these handbags in the Middle East. He went on to detail that he's a digger that looks for ancient artifacts, and notes that many of his discoveries have been sent to museums across the world. He shared this photograph with us, saying that it was his most recent discovery and that it closely resembled those handbags that can be seen in ancient Sumerian carvings. The man said that the handbag is a symbol, characterized by its distinct shape and handle, and has been discovered in diverse regions and time periods. From ancient Egypt to Mesopotamia, from Mesoamerica to Easter Island, representations of this enigmatic object have been unearthed, suggesting a shared significance across vast distances and cultural boundaries. The handbag appears in reliefs, statues, and hieroglyphs, raising questions about its symbolic meaning and potential cultural exchange. Oddly enough, he said that when he discovered this artifact, someone approached him about buying it. He found this strange, as at the time he didn't tell anyone about the discovery, and found it odd how this individual knew about this object. The digger said the man was very keen to buy it and asked whether anyone had seen it, at which point he said that he hadn't shared any photographs of it. What the man found strange about this individual was how badly they wanted this artifact, and the digger said that to this day this was the most expensive item he sold, saying that the mysterious individual gave him tens of thousands of dollars for it. When the digger asked the man about his name and where he was from, he said that the strange individual ignored him, but did say that before he left, the man said that if he found any more of these items, that he would be in contact. The digger found this strange, as he had never seen this man before and couldn't understand where he came from and how he knew about this discovery. Luckily enough, the digger had taken some photographs of the objects shortly before he was approached and was able to share them with us. As of right now, the digger is baffled by the experience and couldn't understand why the man wanted the object so desperately. He didn't take a photograph of him, but did describe him as being very tall, wearing a black suit with black shoes and talking in a very monotone voice. He said that he's never seen the man before and that he didn't blend in with anyone from the area. The digger said that he has no idea where the artifact was taken or whether it was purchased by a museum or for himself. Scholars and researchers have proposed various interpretations for the handbag symbol. Some believe it represents a vessel of power or knowledge carrying the secrets of ancient civilizations or spiritual wisdom. Others associate it with the concept of rebirth, symbolizing the journey of the soul or the transition between different realms. The handbag has also been linked to prosperity, suggesting a connection to rituals or beliefs related to sustenance and growth. The presence of the handbag symbol across different cultures and geographical locations highlights the possibility of cross-cultural connections and exchanges in ancient times. It suggests that ancient civilizations might have shared ideas, concepts, or even physical artifacts through trade routes, migrations, or cultural interactions. The symbolic journey of the handbag implies a common thread that unites seemingly disparate cultures in their understanding of the world and its mysteries. The handbag symbol has sparked numerous theories and speculations. Some propose advanced influence, suggesting that ancient civilizations received advanced knowledge or technology from otherworldly beings. Others interpret it as a symbol of a lost civilization or an ancient global culture that predates known history. However, these theories remain speculative and further research and archaeological evidence are necessary to provide conclusive explanations. The enigmatic handbag symbol found in ancient carvings across cultures and countries continues to captivate the imagination and provoke questions about our shared human experience. Its presence suggests a common language of symbolism that transcended time and geographic boundaries. While interpretations vary, the handbag remains a potent symbol representing mystery, power, and hidden knowledge. Unraveling its true meaning requires interdisciplinary research, comparative analysis, and a deeper understanding of the cultures that left behind these ancient depictions. The handbag symbol invites us to embark on a symbolic journey, connecting the threads of humanity's past and offering a glimpse into the universal concepts that unite us. The ancient Sumerians, who inhabited the land of Mesopotamia, present-day southern Iraq, between the 4th and 3rd millennia BCE, were a remarkable civilization that laid the foundation for many aspects of human culture and civilization. Central to their worldview was a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, each associated with different aspects of life, nature, and the divine order. The Sumerian pantheon was a complex assembly of gods and goddesses, with each deity holding specific dominion over various realms. Among the prominent deities were Anu, the god of the heavens, Enlil, the lord of the air and storms, and Inanna, the goddess of love. The divine hierarchy established the power dynamics among the gods, with Enlil often regarded as the highest authority. Sumerian mythology featured captivating creation stories and narratives that explained the origins of the universe and humanity. One of the most renowned tales is the Enuma Elish, which describes the struggle for supremacy between the gods, culminating in the creation of the world. Another notable myth involves the epic hero Gilgamesh, who embarks on a quest for immortality, showcasing themes of mortality, friendship, and the nature of divinity. The gods played a significant role in Sumerian society, influencing various aspects of life, from governance and law to agriculture and warfare. The king, as the representative of the gods on earth, held a sacred role and derived his authority from divine endorsement. Legal codes and administrative systems were established with the gods' guidance, ensuring justice, order, and social harmony. Additionally, the gods were invoked for protection, success in battle, and bountiful harvests. Sumerian religion and mythology had a profound impact on subsequent cultures in Mesopotamia and beyond. One of the most significant contributions of the Sumerians was the development of the first known writing system, known as cuneiform. Using wedge-shaped impressions on clay tablets, Sumerian scribes recorded economic transactions, religious texts, historical accounts, and literature. Cuneiform was a complex system that allowed for the dissemination of knowledge, fostering the growth of literature and the preservation of cultural heritage. The Sumerians established some of the earliest known legal codes, such as the Code of Ur-Nammu and the Code of Lipit Ishtar, which laid the groundwork for later legal systems. These codes emphasized justice, fairness, and the protection of individual rights. Additionally, the Sumerians developed administrative systems, with officials responsible for taxation, record-keeping, and maintaining public infrastructure. These innovations facilitated governance and the efficient management of a growing society. The Sumerians had a rich and complex religious belief system centered around polytheism. They worshipped a diverse pantheon of gods and goddesses, each associated with different aspects of life, nature, and the divine order. Their religious rituals and ceremonies played a vital role in society, ensuring the well-being and prosperity of their communities. The legacy of the Sumerians extends far beyond their own civilization. Their inventions and cultural achievements heavily influenced later civilizations in Mesopotamia and beyond. The cuneiform script spread to other cultures, including the Akkadians, Babylonians, and Assyrians. Legal principles and administrative systems developed by the Sumerians provided a blueprint for future governance structures. Sumerian myths and religious motifs influenced the pantheons and beliefs of subsequent cultures. The Sumerians laid the groundwork for the development of urbanization, agriculture, and complex social structures, leaving an indelible mark on human history. The Sumerians harnessed their ingenuity to improve agricultural practices and maximize productivity. They constructed intricate irrigation systems, such as canals and dikes, to divert water from rivers and distribute it to their fields. This allowed for year-round cultivation, enhancing crop yields and supporting a growing population. The use of the plough, pulled by oxen, revolutionized farming by facilitating efficient tilling of the soil and preparing it for planting. The Sumerians were skilled in working with metals, particularly copper and bronze. They developed techniques to extract and refine these metals, enabling the production of tools, weapons, and decorative objects. Copper and bronze alloys were employed in the creation of intricate jewelry, statuettes, and ornamental items, showcasing the Sumerians' artistic sensibilities and craftsmanship. The Sumerians recognized the importance of transportation and trade for their expanding civilization. They constructed road networks connecting various city-states and established river trade routes, utilizing boats and barges to transport goods along the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. Their mastery of watercraft allowed for efficient movement of goods, facilitating trade with distant regions and fostering cultural exchange. Sumerian architecture reflected their advanced understanding of engineering principles. They constructed impressive structures using mud bricks, designing multi-story buildings with flat roofs and intricate facades. The Sumerians developed innovative construction methods, including the use of arches, vaults, and buttresses, which provided stability and allowed for the construction of monumental edifices such as ziggurats and city walls. The disappearance of Fariba Amani. The mysterious disappearance of Fariba Amani has gripped the hearts and minds of people around the world, leaving a trail of unanswered questions and speculation in its wake. Fariba Amani, an Iranian-American woman, vanished without a trace on December 24, 2009, under circumstances that continue to baffle investigators and haunt her loved ones to this day. Fariba Amani was concerned about going on a cruise with Ramiz Golshani, her partner. Her family claims that the 47-year-old only wanted to travel since the trip was paid for in advance. After the pair got home, it's claimed that Amani was having second thoughts about the relationship. Somewhere between the Bahamas and Florida on February 29, 2012, the Canadian woman vanished from the ship. According to her boyfriend, nothing about their cruise trip looked out of the ordinary. He said to detectives that he spotted his girlfriend outside a duty-free store at around 1 a.m. Golshani says that after going to bed, he was startled to see that Amani had not come back to their room. Golshani informed the crew after roughly an hour of searching. Charles Kinnear, president of Celebration Cruise Lines, told news outlets that he returned to the room, went to bed, and claimed that she wasn't there when he woke up, and before deciding to come and tell them, he took some time to stroll around the ship. However, Amani's family is adamant that she wouldn't have fallen overboard by mistake. Her sister said during an interview that she doesn't think her disappearance was accidental, adding that she couldn't have just stumbled and fallen off board. Her sister also pointed out that she didn't drink. Furthermore, Amani's relatives disclosed to the public that she was considering ending the relationship with Golshani. Her sister said to news outlets that she believed Golshani was unfaithful to her and that he had a tendency to be quite controlling. Fariba Amani's family continues to hold out hope for her safe return, but as time passes, the likelihood of finding answers grows increasingly slim. The disappearance of Fariba Amani remains a haunting mystery, one that has left her loved ones grappling with uncertainty and anguish. Until concrete evidence or information comes to light, the fate of Fariba Amani will continue to be one of the many unsolved mysteries of our time. The disappearance of Hugh Pham and Hugh Tran. The children of Hugh Pham and Hugh Tran gifted them a cruise for Mother's Day. In May 2005, they sailed on the Carnival cruise ship Destiny, and they disappeared midway between Barbados and Aruba. According to news outlets, they claim that the 49-year married couple had previously triumphed against significant adversity. In the final stages of the Vietnam War, they managed to escape their home country of Vietnam, drift aimlessly for 2 weeks in the South China Sea, and eventually make their way to the United States, where they started a new life. As their son, Michael Pham, told news outlets, they worked very hard since they came to the United States 30 years ago, retired, and lived happily in Southern California, adding that his parents deserved the cruise ship present. However, Iwafune, aged 71, and Hugh Tran, aged 67, disappeared off the ship on May 12, 2005. As the ship headed towards Aruba, son Michael Pham told news outlets that his parents vanished from sight, and they left very little trace. He clarified that although there was no sign of the missing pair, searchers had discovered Hugh's handbag, the book she was reading, and the sandals of both the parents. The children of the missing spouses wrote for international cruise victims, accusing Carnival Cruise Lines of being more concentrated on preparing the next day's shore activities than safeguarding important data and proof related to two of their missing passengers. In addition, son Michael Pham asserted that the cruise line was unhelpful, and he has recently testified before Congress over the inadequate safety procedures on cruise ships. He told news outlets that they were two American citizens living the happiest time of their lives, adding that neither of them had any major health issues nor any personal or financial problems, and they both vanished without a trace or witness. The mysterious disappearance of John Halford. Based on a recent ruling by the High Court, it is now presumed that a man in his 60s, who is a father of 3 and went missing after enjoying drinks on a cruise ship in Egypt, met his demise. John Halford, a resident of Milton Keynes in Buckinghamshire, found himself embarking on an unforeseen solo vacation following the challenges that arose in his 25-year-long marital relationship. High Court Judge Mr. Justice Hayden carefully examined the case during a hearing held in the Family Division of the High Court in London. This occurred when Ruth, the wife of Mr. Halford, requested a declaration of presumed demise in order to establish her legal status. The woman shed tears while presenting her case to the judge, sharing details of the challenges she faced in her marriage, particularly relating to financial issues. She explained how her husband had been planning to leave their home and seek temporary accommodation at a bed and breakfast, but mysteriously vanished before doing so. This heartbreaking situation was marked by turmoil. According to her, there was a sense of astonishment surrounding his choice to embark on the expensive expedition worth a significant £6,000 during the spring of 2011. According to the judge, there was evidence suggesting that Mr. Halford, who was known for his preference for beer, consumed 2 cocktails at a casino bar on the ship in the period leading up to midnight. This information sheds light on Mr. Halford's beverage choices and sets the context for his actions. Following his sudden departure, the individual in question mysteriously vanished, leaving behind a plethora of personal belongings within the confines of his cabin. As of right now, his whereabouts remains a mystery. The mysterious disappearance of Rebecca Coriam. The disappearance of Rebecca Coriam, a young British cruise ship staffer from the Disney Wonder on March 22, 2011, remains a mystery to the authorities. Rebecca Coriam, aged 24, vanished out of sight on March 22, 2011. The popularity and revenue of the cruise business have grown steadily since the 1980s, and travelers have been drawn to large, floating, self-sufficient cities that are bound to far-off places for several decades, and there are no signs that this attraction is going away. Rebecca Coriam was a care worker on the Disney Wonder cruise ship when she vanished. Coriam was last seen on CCTV footage. She was dressed in men's clothing, acting extremely agitated, and conversing on an internal phone line in the crew lounge. She was never seen or heard from again after the call ended. Disney employees were notified to search the ship for Coriam when she failed to show up for her morning shift, but they were unable to find her. Then, in an attempt to search the nearby waters, the Mexican Navy and the United States Coast Guard were contacted. However, they were likewise unable to locate Coriam. Rebecca's father, Mike Coriam, claims that Disney ignored protocol and didn't circle the ship to search for his daughter, and he also claims that the personnel from the Navy and Coast Guard were likely searching the wrong region of the sea since they were given the wrong coordinates. The nation where the ship was registered, in this case the tax haven of the Bahamas, was given jurisdiction over the matter under the Flags of Convenience system. Disney got in touch with the Royal Bahamas Police Force to launch an investigation 3 days after Coriam vanished. In response, the Royal Bahamas Police Force assigned Superintendent Paul Roll, one of its detectives, to the case, and Disney arranged for him to be flown out to Los Angeles on a private plane. When the Wonder came back into port, he spent a day on board questioning 6 of the 950 personnel, but none of the more than 2,000 passengers. Disney flew out Rebecca's parents, Mike and Ann Corium, to meet with the detective and ship's captain in Los Angeles, following several days of stalled communication. Regarding their daughter who went missing, the family received Disney-style treatment. Anne said that Disney staged everything, saying that passengers exited at the front of the boat and they were driven there in a car with blacked-out windows. They led them into a room where they played Rebecca's CCTV footage, which mostly showed her in good health. The captain of the ship gave the family his assessment of their daughter's destiny while they were on board, and he clarified that it was most likely a stray wave that had carried Rebecca off of Deck 5. Deck 5, which is right in front of the ship's bridge and is surrounded by walls that rise to a height of more than 6 feet, was shown to Mike and Anne. After that, they were shown a sandal that had reportedly belonged to Rebecca and been found on Deck 5 when they were brought to the crew quarters and Rebecca's cabin. The Coriums watched the Disney Wonder depart dock for its next cruise the following day from land. Disney thought the heartbreaking issue should be resolved, and at a ceremony attended by part of the ship's crew, flowers were placed on the spot of the alleged rogue wave mishap on Deck 5, despite the fact that the Royal Bahamas Police Force case is still under investigation. The Coriums recruited Scotland Yard specialist Roy Ram as a private investigator after being dissatisfied with Disney's explanation for their daughter's disappearance. They also enlisted the assistance of Chester MP Chris Matheson and former Deputy Prime Minister Lord Prescott. What they discovered outside of the formal investigation has unsettling ramifications for Rebecca Corium's potential future. According to Disney's official explanation, Rebecca was swept off Deck 5 by a rogue wave that happened on March 22nd, sometime between 6 and 9 in the morning. However, there are a lot of contradictions in this story. One is that, based on Ram's account, there is no indication of stormy weather in the weather or ocean conditions near Puerto Vallarta, where the ship was located, much less a rogue wave that would need to be about 100 feet high to sweep a person over the 6-foot walls surrounding Deck 5 and overboard. The CCTV footage of Rebecca conversing on an internal phone line at the time of her last known sighting is the main physical piece of evidence in Rebecca's disappearance. Ram's research revealed that the location and timing of the CCTV film had been chopped out. Disney claims that the CCTV film was taken indoors on Deck 5, not far from the location where Rebecca is said to have been swept overboard. After seeing the undoctored copy, Ram and the other investigators discovered that the tape was really shot on Deck 1, not near the location of Rebecca's purported accidental disappearance. The family has often been denied copies of this footage. A prominent tangible piece of evidence supplied by Disney involved a purportedly found sandal on Deck 5, allegedly belonging to Rebecca. However, family and crew members maintained that the sandal was the incorrect size and not in Rebecca's design, and it bore the name and cabin number of someone else entirely. Investigative writer John Ronson of The Guardian boarded the Wonder a few months after Rebecca vanished in an effort to unravel the events surrounding the Corium incident. Upon interviewing team members, he discovered dubious and possibly malevolent motives underlying Disney's justification for the Corium case. A crew member revealed that Disney is well aware of the events that transpired and said that everywhere you look, CCTV is installed. The tape is owned by Disney. Ronson was asked about Rebecca, and one of the crew members said that they don't know anything about it and that it did not occur, adding that they said this is the response they are forced to provide. Rebecca was characterized as happy-go-lucky and energetic by her English relatives and acquaintances. A staff member claimed that Disney wouldn't hire you if you weren't that sort of person, therefore working there required a generally upbeat outlook. However, Rebecca's close friends and fellow crew members on the ship present a more complex picture of her than her parents and the media do. When questioned about her, one of the crew members characterized Rebecca as a lovely girl with underlying sadness. Tracy Medley, a co-worker on the Wonder and Rebecca's partner, spoke forward about the events. Back in 2017, she stated that she and Rebecca had been involved romantically with Medley's boyfriend. She claims that in the weeks before, Rebecca had been inconsolable over their fiery and passionate night together. Rebecca's normally upbeat disposition may have been thrown off by the surprise of having to share her partner with a male friend, and looking back, Medley believes that Rebecca wanted to leave the ship and her life behind, and climbed over the 6-foot railings of Deck 5 to jump into the ocean. However, English friends and family have denied that Rebecca would have done this. Crew members, friends, family, and law enforcement officials all testified that Rebecca Corriam's case involved a badly handled investigation. It is objectively difficult to be satisfied with the quality of police work done when there are just 6 officially documented interviews, suppressed evidence, and no forensic investigation. One of Rebecca's closest friends, and the last person on board to see her, gave the BBC his perspective. He said that he never talked to any security or police at all, and added that it is offensive to refer to this as an investigation. A torn pair of shorts was discovered by investigator Ram in 2016 among Rebecca's surviving cabin personal belongings, and this indicated to him and other law enforcement that there had been indications of a struggle prior to her disappearance. The Corriam family discovered Rebecca had changed her Facebook login, and there had been action on her bank account some months after she vanished. MP Matheson stated that he believes there's sufficient evidence to indicate that something sinister may have taken place. Friends and relatives are still looking for answers. The disappearance of Annette Miziner. Annette Miziner invited her parents and daughter to go on a complimentary 9-day carnival cruise to the Mexican Riviera after winning a contest. However, on December 4, 2004, just before she was meant to meet her parents for bingo, Miziner vanished, and strange evidence was discovered by witnesses. According to news outlets, Miziner sang a Britney Spears song at karaoke with her kid before making her way to the ship's casino. Miziner intended to arrive before the bingo game began at 10 in the evening in order to secure a good seat. However, she did not appear. A crew member also stated over the intercom that they had located the Wisconsin woman's handbag next to a railing on the lower deck, just as her worried parents were beginning to look for her. When Miziner went outside, a fellow passenger reportedly saw her purse on the ground. He also saw, quite unsettlingly, that a piece of paper had been placed over the neighboring surveillance camera. The passenger remarked that a lot of people have been saying it's a rumor, but added that it's not hearsay. They personally witnessed it. According to news outlets, a Navy ship and a Coast Guard aircraft searched the seas for Miziner for 16 hours without finding the missing 37-year-old. Her spouse disagreed, speculating that Miziner may have been shoved or may have fallen from the ship unintentionally. Annette Miziner is still missing today. The mysterious disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley. 23-year-old Amy Lynn Bradley sailed on Royal Caribbean's Rhapsody of the Seas with her brother and parents on March 21, 1998. After a cold winter, they were excited about a tropical family holiday. However, Bradley disappeared a few days later as the ship made its way towards Curaçao, a Dutch Caribbean island. Bradley and her brother supposedly danced at the ship's club for most of the evening. Bradley and a few of the band members grabbed drinks after the performance. Alistair Douglas, one of them, spent some time having fun with Bradley before heading back to the staff cabins at around 1 in the morning. He claimed that it was the last time he had seen her. Then, Bradley and her brother went back to their family cabin, where she went out on the balcony to relax in a deck chair, and he went to bed. Around 5:30 in the morning, her father spotted her there. Nevertheless, she vanished 30 minutes later. Bradley appeared to have left behind nothing, not even her sandals. According to a later story, at around 6 in the morning, someone saw Bradley walking to the top deck of the ship. However, the family could find no sign of her when they searched that area, as well as other public spaces on the ship. The Bradley family pleaded with the cruise liner to postpone its scheduled docking, certain that something terrible had to have occurred. According to them, no one was to leave the ship until a thorough search could be conducted. The crew declined, as they didn't want to alert other travelers to a young woman's disappearance. They even declined to upload any pictures, asking people to look out for her. Thus, the ship docked on time, and Amy Lynn Bradley vanished from view. The most straightforward interpretation is that Bradley went overboard and disappeared under the waves. However, the ship was close to shore, and Bradley was not only a certified lifeguard, but also a superb swimmer. But as of right now, there is no proof that she had fallen into the water. There have been other reported sightings of Bradley throughout the Caribbean in the decades following her disappearance. Even a picture of a lady who appeared to be Bradley was supplied to her parents, and this caused some to suggest that she had been taken by someone who was on the ship. However, the photographs have not been proven to be Bradley. Even after more than 25 years, officials are still no closer to cracking this perplexing case than they were back in 1998. The mystery of the seahorse emoji. The seahorse emoji is one of the more intriguing examples in the growing collection of Mandela effect phenomena. The Mandela effect refers to the collective misremembering of certain facts or events by large groups of people. In this case, many individuals strongly recall a seahorse emoji being available on iPhones. Some remember it vividly enough to describe specific features, claiming that not only did the emoji exist, but there were actually two versions released over time. Yet, according to both Apple and Unicode Consortium records, no official seahorse emoji has ever existed. What makes the seahorse emoji memory so compelling is the level of detail with which people describe it. Some say the original version was a yellow seahorse with blue fins, cartoonish in appearance and consistent with the older emoji styles. Others insist that Apple later updated it to a more detailed pink version, similar in style to the newer, more realistic animal emojis that appeared after iOS design updates. These accounts are so specific that they sound plausible. People claim they used the emoji in messages, inserted it in captions, and even saw it on friends' devices. Yet searches across emoji databases, old operating system archives, and emoji update logs reveal no trace of it ever existing. This leads to the question, how can so many people confidently recall something that seemingly never was? One possibility is visual association. The human brain is prone to filling in gaps with familiar images. Seahorses, being distinct and often featured in children's media, aquariums, and marine-themed designs, are easy to imagine in emoji form. It's possible that people are confusing sticker packs, third-party keyboard apps, or cartoon images with the actual emoji keyboard used by Apple and other platforms. A similar-looking character might have been used frequently in apps, leading people to mistake it for an official emoji. Another factor could be the blending of memories. Over time, people use various devices and platforms, all with slightly different emoji sets. A seahorse might have appeared in a digital sticker pack, on a website, or as part of an illustration in a messaging app, and those memories could merge with one's mental list of emojis. This blending creates a false confidence, a belief not just that the seahorse emoji existed, but that it was personally used and seen repeatedly. Despite all efforts to debunk it, the belief in the seahorse emoji continues. The more it's discussed, the more people come forward saying they too remember it clearly. It has become a symbol of how collective memory can be shaped, influenced, and sometimes misled. Whether it is a case of mistaken identity, digital overlap, or something more mysterious, the seahorse emoji remains a curious example of how the mind can create certainty in the absence of proof. The Mandela effect reminds us that memory is not a flawless record. It is subjective, easily influenced, and sometimes even shaped by shared stories. In the case of the seahorse emoji, it's not about whether it existed, it's about how strongly people believe that it did. Strange visual changes in weather forecasts. In recent years, many viewers have noticed a significant shift in the visual presentation of weather forecasts on television. What once appeared as green, temperate maps with mild color gradients has evolved into intense, heat-saturated imagery that resembles something out of a natural disaster film. This change has sparked widespread discussion, with people questioning why similar temperatures that were previously displayed on calm green landscapes are now paired with backgrounds resembling molten lava or apocalyptic fire. The images reflect this transformation vividly. In one, a weather presenter stands before a traditional green map, reporting high temperatures in the mid-30s Celsius. Despite the heat, the overall tone of the map appears balanced and neutral. In the newer image, however, almost identical temperatures are depicted with dramatic, fiery visuals, flames, glowing red textures, and extreme contrasts that immediately signal danger and urgency. This stylistic change has prompted people to ask why such a shift has occurred. Many argue that heat waves are not new and that high temperatures have been experienced for generations, especially during summer. They point out that similar readings in previous decades were delivered with minimal dramatization. So why the heightened visual intensity now? One possible reason is the evolving role of media in shaping public perception. The dramatic red and orange tones are not just artistic choices, they evoke emotion, particularly concern. Scientists and broadcasters may be using these vivid animations as a way to communicate the growing seriousness of climate-related heat events. With rising global temperatures and more frequent extreme weather, some media outlets may feel it is their responsibility to emphasize the danger these heat waves can pose, especially to vulnerable populations such as the elderly or those with health conditions. Additionally, in an age of fast-moving information, visual impact matters more than ever. Audiences are bombarded with content on social media and streaming platforms, making it more difficult for traditional news to capture attention. A fiery, dramatic weather map stands out and grabs viewers immediately. In that sense, the change may also be tied to the psychology of media engagement, using more intense imagery to ensure the message isn't ignored or downplayed. However, critics argue that this approach can also contribute to unnecessary fear or desensitization. If every weather report looks like the world is on fire, viewers may either become overly anxious or eventually stop taking the message seriously. Some feel the shift represents a kind of theatrical embellishment, rather than an objective presentation of the facts. They worry that such dramatization could erode trust in the neutrality of weather reporting, transforming it into another emotionally charged broadcast, rather than a practical, factual update. Ultimately, the change in weather graphics reflects more than just artistic preference. It is a reflection of the times. Whether to raise awareness, encourage climate consciousness, or simply boost engagement, news stations are leaning into visual drama. As long as these graphics remain rooted in real data and avoid exaggeration, they serve as a reminder of how climate, media, and public perception continue to evolve together. Planned UK UFO hearings will allow members of Parliament to hear testimony from whistleblowers with alleged extraterrestrial encounters. Britain is preparing to take a significant step toward transparency with the announcement of upcoming public hearings that will allow military personnel to share their close encounters with unidentified aerial phenomena, also known as UFOs. This marks a historic moment for the United Kingdom, where, for decades, military witnesses have remained silent, often constrained by strict non-disclosure agreements or deterred by fear of ridicule. Now, those from the Royal Air Force, the Army, and the Navy will be given a safe and formal platform to share their experiences openly and without judgment. The move is being driven by the UK's newly formed UFO Disclosure Group, led by documentary filmmaker Mark Christopher Lee. The group has secured a meeting with a minister from the House of Lords to lay the groundwork for establishing a select committee designed to hear testimony from credible whistleblowers. These hearings are modelled after the US congressional approach, where public sessions have already led to the release of previously classified documents detailing encounters between military personnel and unexplained aerial craft. Mark Christopher Lee has made it clear that this effort is about giving people a voice. At a screening of his most recent documentary, The Rendlesham UFO, The British Roswell, at the Raindance Film Festival, he spoke about the need for a safe environment where witnesses can speak freely. He described numerous instances where RAF pilots and even law enforcement officers had come forward to him privately with accounts of unexplained sightings, yet felt unable to go public due to the fear of being dismissed or ridiculed. According to Mark, the process is already in motion. A close associate of Prime Minister Keir Starmer has arranged for a formal conversation between the UFO Disclosure Group and a government minister. This meeting is expected to lead to the establishment of a select committee, a crucial step in organising these hearings. The ultimate goal is to have witnesses testify under oath, presenting evidence that could reshape the public's understanding of aerial phenomena. The growing movement in the UK is influenced heavily by the developments in the United States, where military whistleblowers have begun stepping forward with powerful testimonies. These disclosures have helped change the tone of the conversation, shifting it away from sensationalism and toward legitimate national and scientific interest. Britain now seeks to mirror that level of openness. Mark has also stated that there is increasing interest at the highest levels of British society. He claims that Prime Minister Starmer is being briefed on global UFO activity by American officials, and that King Charles has expressed a deep interest in the topic, continuing a legacy of curiosity shared by the late Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip. In his previous film, The King of UFOs, Mark presented evidence that Prince Philip had collected reports and even hosted private meetings with experts on the subject. Noted crop circle researcher Colin Andrews confirmed that he personally briefed both Prince Charles and Prince Philip on unexplained aerial and crop-based phenomena. This convergence of public curiosity, political attention, and credible witness accounts is creating a unique moment in British history. For the first time, those who have seen or experienced something extraordinary during their military service may be given the opportunity to speak truthfully and openly in a public forum. The implications go far beyond individual stories. If the government moves forward with the hearings, it could change the way society engages with the question of whether intelligent life exists beyond Earth. These developments also raise profound philosophical and cultural questions. If confirmed encounters suggest the presence of beings not from this world, what would that mean for religious beliefs, national security, or even humanity's place in the universe? Mark believes that King Charles, as a spiritual leader across many faiths, is aware of the potential impact such revelations could have. He has hinted that the monarch is already consulting various advisors about the broader meaning of such discoveries. The coming months will be crucial. As plans for the Select Committee progress and preparations are made to invite whistleblowers to speak, the UK could be entering a new era of openness and inquiry. This moment could become a defining chapter in the long and mysterious history of unexplained aerial encounters, one where truth is no longer hidden in the shadows, but brought forward into the light. The Wessex Way Monster. In England, a mysterious creature was caught on a motorway camera. A strange humanoid named variously as the Wessex Way Monster, the Wessex Way Creature, or the Highway Crawler of England, was seen on camera on an English highway sometime around the year 2007. Images in the form of still photos show what looks to be a head that is similar to a human, complete with legs and an upper torso, and it can run on all fours. Curiously, inhabitants in the region claimed that authorities began to investigate after this tape was made public, and further reports of sightings came from people who claimed to have seen a four-legged monster that bore a striking similarity to a werewolf. After the video was made public, investigations produced little results, but oddly, several people came forward and described how they had seen weird animals prowling the area in the early 2000s. According to the eyewitnesses, the creature resembled a giant hairy humanoid, or werewolf. It could move at extremely high rates and was frequently seen leaving a scene before a good photo could be taken. The creature's rapid speed caused some to speculate that it wasn't natural, pointing out that it might have been a baby deer crossing the road at the time. However, others who took screenshots of the creature claimed that it didn't resemble any of the local wildlife and that it had what appeared to be arms and legs. According to one cop who supposedly came forward and recounted how they had seen strange creatures around the area, the Wessex Way region in Devon is home to numerous unusual species, and locals have been coming forward for years to describe their mysterious experiences. Mrs. Green, one of the eyewitnesses, reported seeing a big, bipedal, canine-like creature with broad shoulders, robust, muscular legs, and a pointed nose that resembled the Wessex Way Monster. It was further described as having blazing eyes and sharp teeth, being between 6 and 7 feet long, and appearing to be able to stand on its hind legs. Its fur was either grey, black, or brown. The video is not very clear, but you can clearly see that its hind legs are not like a deer's, and its upper body and shoulders also seem excessively large, indicating that this creature is more humanoid. Those who have seen the footage have suggested that it could be a skinwalker, wendigo, or even a wild man. The Monkey Man of New Delhi. The Monkey Man phenomenon that gripped New Delhi in the summer of 2001 remains one of the most intriguing and bizarre episodes in the city's history. The sudden appearance of a mysterious, monkey-like creature terrorized residents and sparked widespread panic, leading to a series of dramatic encounters between police and the alleged creature. The events that unfolded during this tumultuous period shed light on the complexities of urban folklore, mass hysteria, and the human psyche. An ape-like creature known as the Monkey Man of New Delhi frightened India's capital city of New Delhi. That May, rumors of an odd, nocturnal, monkey-like creature that was attacking people started circulating in New Delhi. Although eyewitness reports were frequently contradictory, they generally described the creature as standing 4 feet tall and having thick black hair, and it was said to have had metal claws, trousers, and bright red eyes that occasionally showed through goggles. It also wore a metal helmet. Some say the monkey man is Bigfoot, while others say it's an embodiment of the Hindu god Hanuman. Many people claim to have been scratched, and in a panic brought on by the monkey man, 2 or 3, depending on certain accounts, even perished when they leaped from building tops or plunged down stairwells. Police eventually even released impressions created by artists in an effort to apprehend the creature. It was said that if one shines a bright light in the monkey man's face, it will dispel his night vision glasses and cause him to flee. Additionally, it was believed that dousing the primate with water would disable his motherboard heart. Likewise, it was thought that the monster might become invisible by simply pressing a single button on his panel. According to these views, the monkey man is more mechanical than natural. 15 individuals sustained injuries on May 13, 2001, varying from scratches and bites to bruises. On May 15th, a pregnant woman fled after hearing neighbors yell that they had seen the monkey man and tumbled down several stairs. Additional reports of sightings surfaced in Kanpur in February 2002 and New Delhi in July 2002, with the latter reporting a contraption like a monkey and glimmering with red and blue lights. An unidentified eyewitness even asserted that the monkey man had stolen his mobile phone. The response from authorities was swift, but initially ineffective. Police received hundreds of distress calls and deployed additional patrols to investigate the reports. As quickly as it had begun, the monkey man phenomenon gradually faded away by midsummer. The number of reported sightings decreased, and public interest shifted to other topics. The lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp. The lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp is a lizard-like humanoid entity described as standing at a height of 7 feet, having been completely green in color and possessing the rough, textured skin of a lizard. The primary sightings of the lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp describe the creature as having snake-like scales covering its body from head to toe and 3 large, knob-like fingers on each hand. Some of the reported witness sightings claim the creature to have glowing red eyes that appear to illuminate, whereas others have described the creature's eyes as reflective, similar to that of a wild animal. First sighted back in 1988, a series of sightings would persist in the area of Scape Ore Swamp, South Carolina, over the span of several years before efforts by the local military would prevent cryptid researchers from investigating the sightings any further. Back in 1988, a 17-year-old local resident, known as Christopher Davis, claimed that, as he was driving near the location of Scape Ore Swamp, he struck a creature that was described as being green, completely wet, 7 feet tall, had the skin of a lizard, possessed 3 fingers on both hands, had wide, glowing red eyes, and was covered from head to toe in snake-like scales. This creature would later be referred to by locals as the lizard man of the Scape Ore Swamp, and further sightings of the creature would continue for years to come. Though many claimed to have spotted the creature, even occasionally having direct encounters, on the roads located nearby the Scape Ore Swamp, others claimed that they had even encountered the lizard man more than a few miles away from the swamp. This would eventually lead to so many sightings of the creature that a local radio station offered a $1 million reward to anybody that could capture the creature alive and bring it to the radio station. Though many people believed it to be nothing more than a publicity stunt, the seriousness of the creature would later be the focus of the nearby military base, as an airman known as Kenneth Orr, that worked at the nearby Shaw Air Force Base, would go on to file a police report claiming that he had encountered the lizard man located off of Highway 15 and fired at the creature. He believed he had wounded the creature but couldn't locate its body. Despite the police report and the proof of a number of scales being found at the location, Kenneth Orr was arrested for claims of an unlawful carry of a weapon and attempting to file false police reports. This has led many to believe that though the military may be actively hunting and looking for the creature, they are also working to cover up the existence of the lizard men to prevent mass panic. Although the two creatures don't share a lot of the same physical characteristics, Many cryptid researchers have often compared the reports surrounding the Thetis Lake monster sightings with that of the lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp. Similar to the lizard man, the Thetis Lake monster is a reported lizard man-like entity, but a large protruding horn rising from the top of his head. Additionally, the two creatures made their appearances roughly around the same time, back in the mid-1970s. Although far smaller and more frog-like in design, the Thetis Lake monster also appears to inhabit an underwater ecosystem. Unlike the lizard man, rather than running from confrontation, the Thetis Lake monster is remarkably aggressive and has attacked several eyewitnesses over the years. According to a report made by the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, on the 19th of August in 1972, 2 eyewitnesses would report a lizard man encounter out on Thetis Lake, located near Cottonwood, British Columbia, only a few miles from the Cadborough Bay off Victoria and Vancouver Island. According to the 2 eyewitnesses, 2 boys by the name of Gordon Pike and Robin Llewellyn, the 2 claimed to have seen a 5-foot-tall creature suddenly emerge from the surface of Thetis Lake and chase them onto the shore of the beach. As the creature got close to Robin Llewellyn, the being was believed to have lowered its head and cut Robin on the hand using 6 razor-sharp points that were located on the cranium of the lizard man-like creature. Once injured, the boys would run further away from the beach as they would watch the impossible to explain creature slowly return back to the waters and disappear deep into the lake. Shortly after the encounter, the 2 boys would call the local authorities and a Royal Canadian Mounted Police officer would arrive at the beach to investigate the claims further. Oddly enough, rather than dismissing the sighting as nothing more than a prank, the officer would document the attack in detail and make special mention of the real wound received by one of the eyewitnesses. The officer would later state that the boys seemed sincere, and until they determine otherwise, they have no alternative but to continue their investigation. 4 days following the initial sightings, on the next Wednesday afternoon, on the 23rd of August, the Thetis Lake monster would be reported once again by independent eyewitnesses who claimed to have seen the lizard man creature by the shores of the lake. According to the eyewitnesses, 2 men by the name of Mike Gold and Russell Van Nice, the 2 claimed that while they were at the shores of Thetis Lake, in the recreation area commonly visited by tourists, they noticed a peculiar disturbance in the water across the lake at around 3:30 in the afternoon. The 2 men claimed that as they watched the disturbance in the water, they initially thought that the source could have been a man struggling to swim as the creature would make it to the shore after seemingly being stuck underneath the surface of the water for an exceptionally long period of time. Once on the shore, the 2 eyewitnesses described the creature as appearing to have had the body of a human being, covered entirely in scales, with the head and face of a monster. Atop the head of the creature was believed to be a razor-sharp horn, or point, with large sharp ears jutting off of the side of the creature's skull. Although it was difficult to accurately see, the men believed that the creature was entirely silver in color, though admit that the color could have been caused by a reflection of the afternoon light on the smooth surface of the wet scale. One of the eyewitnesses, Mike Gold, would later provide a statement to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police on the incident, saying that the mysterious creature came out of the water and looked around. He described the creature as shaped like an ordinary body, like a human being's body, but it had a monster face, and it was all scaly, a point sticking out of its head and great big ears. Although these 2 sightings would be the only known detailed reports surrounding the strange creature, rumors surrounding the Thetis Lake claim that man-sized serpent-like creatures are often spotted in the area surrounding the lake and in the nearby bay. Legends of a monster referred to as the Cadborosaurus, nicknamed the Caddy, are claimed almost every year in the British Columbian coast, known as the Cadborough Bay, located only a few miles from the Thetis Lake. Although the serpent creature of Cadborough, referred to as the Caddy, is often described by eyewitnesses as being similar in design to the Loch Ness Monster, continued sightings of frog-like and lizard-like humanoids have been made all throughout the surrounding region of the Cadborough Bay. Additionally, during certain months of the year, Thetis Lake directly connects with Cadborough Bay, draining out into the nearby shoreline, allowing a brief moment of connection between the 2 bodies of water. New Jersey Gator Man connection. Researchers often compare the original sightings of the lizard man of Scape Ore Swamp sightings, reported out of the state of South Carolina, to many of the matching details of the New Jersey alligator man, such as the alligator-like appearance of the creature and its reported likeness of standing upright on its hind feet, or its behavior of running away when confronted or spotted by a human being, as well as its height and its body, both of which are covered from head to toe in scales. This has led many cryptid researchers into believing that the cryptid responsible for the New Jersey Gator Man reports is also responsible for the Lizard Man of Scape or Swamp reports of South Carolina. During the summers of the early 1970s, a series of reports would be made by independent eyewitnesses around the southern tip of New Jersey, claiming to see what eyewitnesses would describe as a humanoid-shaped alligator man swimming near the shores of the Newton-Lafayette area. Known as the New Jersey Gator Man, according to the hundreds of residents over the course of 5 years, reported between 1973 to 1978, the man-like alligator would be seen swimming in the water, diving down and staying submerged for long periods of time and leaving the water, walking on the shore on its 2 hind legs, similar to that of a man. During the first year of the creature's appearance, back in 1973, a reporter would investigate the sightings of several eyewitnesses who claimed to have been walking by the shores of the Newton-Lafayette area when they noticed what they originally believed was a flailing man in the water. Calling out to the man out of fear that he could have been drowning, the creature would come closer to the shores, only to be revealed as a scaled humanoid creature estimated to have been around 6 feet tall and possessing the head of an alligator. Although the local authorities were uninterested in the reports, the journalist would publish his story in a local newspaper, giving the creature its iconic name and comparing its existence to an ancient Native American story in the region. According to the Lenni Lenape Native American tribe, an ancient legend of a man-sized fish roaming near the shores of the New Jersey area described a similar creature believed to have been a scaled monster. The legend would claim that though the fish was far larger than any known natural species and easy to spot in the water, its size made it impossible to catch and proved to be far too dangerous to ever try to hunt, with the cunning nature of the creature being far more terrifying than its size. It is believed that the New Jersey Gator Man sightings are similar to the ancient Lenni Lenape legends. The reports of the New Jersey Gator Man would reach their climax by the summer of 1977, when a scientific researcher would provide an interview with the local newspaper confirming the existence of a gator man-like creature living near the New Jersey coastline. According to the reports, a New York State conservation naturalist by the name of Alfred Hulstruck would claim that a creature described as a scaled, man-like creature that appears from deep within the waters exists near the state's southern tier. Alfred Hulstruck would also claim that the primary reason for the creature's appearance was due to man-made ecological disasters in the region. Although the cause was unknown, Hulstruck believed that the red algal blooms caused by many of the questionable practices of the state and local businesses were the primary reason for the creature's sudden appearance, as it was believed that the region the creature most frequented were the algae-ridden waters. Interestingly enough, immediately following the statement by the New York State conservation naturalist, the story of the New Jersey Gator Man would go completely silent, with many cryptid theorists believing that a secret government ban on the topic was enforced. Additionally, it appears that any evidence of the articles were claimed to have been scrubbed from first-hand reports, with mentions to the articles coming only from second-hand accounts. Oddly enough, it has proven rather difficult, or next to impossible, to prove the validity of the story of the original newspaper reports back in 1973, as the only sources of the legends of the New Jersey Gator Man make reference to an unnamed journalist and unknown local newspaper that claimed to have authored the article on the New Jersey Gator Man. Several facts surrounding the second-hand accounts are verifiable, however, such as the claims of algal blooms near the southern coastal waters of the New Jersey coastline. Even more interesting, matching the direct claims from the New York State conservation naturalist, growing concerns surrounding chronic red-ride blooms are being investigated by the United States government, with fears that the tides have been causing deeper water species to surface or be relocated due to oxygen deprivation. It could be that the surfacing of the humanoid alligator-like creature could have been caused by the sudden oxygen deprivation in the waters caused by the red algal tides, directly matching the claims of Alfred Hulstruck. When researching the history of the pre-colonial period of the New Jersey area, then known as Nova Caesarea, researcher George Dudding found similar stories of what were referred to as a dragon in the river that ran throughout the area of modern-day New Jersey, recorded by local Native American tribes. According to Dudding, the Native American tribes that had resided around the New Jersey region prior to European settlement had inhabited the region for more than 13 years, predating the creation of modern civilization by more than 2,000 years. It was after the end of the last ice age that the tribal group known as the Lenni Lenape Native Americans had begun to occupy the area of the modern-day Lower Hudson River Valley and the Delaware River Valley. Although the exact timeline of their expansion is unknown, it is believed that over the next few thousand years, the group would reach out and settle in areas much further eastward, closer to the Atlantic Ocean, in the area now referred to as the state of New Jersey. It was sometime around the mid-1600s when the first early European settlers would make contact with the Lenape Native Americans, referring to them as the Indian Delaware tribe. It was during this initial contact that many of the Native Americans warned the early European settlers to not build around the Delaware River, referring to the area as the Poquessing, a term that translates to mean the cursed place of the river dragon. Not believing the story, and instead assuming that the legends were mere fabrications created to convince the settlers to live in areas much further away from the Native American territories, many of the European settlers decided to set up their colonies surrounding the Delaware River, given its ease of access for trade, transportation, and fishing. Oddly enough, it appears that the legends told to the settlers by the Native Americans were founded in some form of truth, as many of the early European settlers would tell strange stories of dragons spotted in the rivers, by the rivers, and near the surrounding woods throughout the region. Once the Swedish explorers arrived in the region, the name of the Delaware River was referred to as Drake Kill, a combination of two Swedish words that translates to mean the Dragon River. Today, creeks and tributaries surrounding the Delaware River hold names like Poquessing Creek or Drake Kylan, which translate to reference dragons or man-sized reptiles spotted in the creeks and rivers in those areas. According to a former UK paratrooper and military intelligence officer, British Special Forces retrieved a non-human ship that was shot down in northern England in the late 1980s. Veteran of the British Army's elite parachute regiment, Frank Milburn, claimed to have spoken with an agent of the MI6 Run team that conducted the purported mission. A pair of disc-shaped UFOs that were flying faster than their fighter jets at hypersonic speeds were pursued and fired at by the British Royal Air Force crew, but he declined to disclose the identity of his former partner, citing security concerns and his need to stay secret. The veteran shared startling details of a narrative his comrade from Special Forces told him after they both left the army in an exclusive interview with news outlets. He claimed he wanted to support previous accusations made by American whistleblowers regarding a covert UFO crash recovery program. Frank Milburn claims that his friend worked with Squad E, a covert, clandestine and paramilitary force that specialized in covert operations back in the 1980s. Formerly called the Increment, Squadron E brought in the most seasoned and reliable operators from the Special Air Service, Special Boat Service, and Regiment of Special Recognition of the United Kingdom's Special Forces. The CIA's Special Operations Group and Joint Special Operations Command, which are composed of Tier 1 forces like Delta Force and SEAL Team 6, are the American counterparts of this squadron. According to Milburn, his friend participated in multiple high-risk operations across the globe, including one that took place in his native nation in the late 1980s. He claimed to have told him they were stationed in a troop-sized group, maybe consisting of 20 or 30 Special Forces operators. He said that a ship that was not American, British or Russian had been taken down, and added that their mission was to secure and reclaim the ship in England's north. They were flown there in a helicopter, and he stated that it was obvious that the ship was not human and that there were occupants who had left the area on foot, which led to a task of tracking down these beings to try to take them into custody. They left a portion of the force to guard the ship. Maybe 6 or 8 men should have been left to cordon off the ship, and the rest would have been tracking these escaping beings on foot, in quads, or in large off-road vehicles with help from a helicopter. Everything was totally out of our control after that. Milburn claimed that his friend informed him that technicians and scientists had arrived in the region and that his team had been flown away by helicopter, leaving them to never hear again about the downed ship. And even though he declined to provide her with any further information and offered no proof for his amazing tale, the ex-paratrooper claimed he believed his former elite comrade's word after vetting him alongside other SAS veterans. He said that he has complete faith in him. After leaving the military, he spoke with the person and said that this individual is a very good skydiver. He talked to paratroopers and his former SAS colleagues, and they were discussing a man who courageously engaged in some of the most difficult combat during the Falklands campaign. He made the observation that this is not the kind of person who talks nonsense or jokes. Up until the late 1990s, Milburn was employed by the US Army Special Forces and the US State Department's Office of Diplomatic Security as a contractor in the Middle East. The mysterious Mike Foss encounter. One cold November evening in the mid-1970s, 27-year-old Mike Foss saw a mysterious shimmering object while driving home to rural South Dakota. By the time he got home, the object was hovering near the property, which added to the strangeness of the situation. The Foss family was left absolutely perplexed by the 3 further sightings that transpired over the course of several weeks, beginning with the strange sighting of Mike and his parents. After the encounters, UFO investigators looked into the case, but despite their best efforts, no plausible explanation could be found, and what they actually saw is still a complete mystery. Following his recent divorce, Foss was residing at his parents' house on a farm they owned around 7 miles south of Milbank, South Dakota, at the time of the encounter. Furthermore, despite having a natural aptitude for architecture, Foss was forced to work as a significantly less strenuous part-time switchboard operator for the Milbank Police Department due to a severe physical problem. Nevertheless, he was eventually seen as a reliable witness, possibly as a result of his employment. Especially considering that his father, Norman Foss, was also a South Dakota highway patrolman for nearly 20 years. On November 27, 1976, at around 6:30 in the evening, Mike Foss left for home after stopping by a Milbank auto body shop. The clear night had helped to bring the temperature down to almost zero, even though it was still early evening. He saw what he later described as a mysterious light without a source, an extraordinarily bright, blazing orange light above him on his right side while driving on Highway 77. For the next few minutes, he continued to focus on the light object, and finally he turned into a gravelled country road that led to his parents' farmhouse. He noticed the mysterious object seemed to be hovering over a field at the side of the road as soon as he turned onto this one, and at this point he stopped the car so he could have a better look, even though he was still inside and the engine was still running. Initially, he assumed the object was probably a helicopter, maybe a police chopper on a patrol or searching mission, but as he continued to observe, it became increasingly clear to him that whatever he was seeing was a little more unusual. His mind was suddenly filled with terror at this realization, so he stepped on the throttle and drove as fast as he could to his parents' property. He made the decision to tell his parents what he had seen as soon as he returned home, and then he would accompany them back to this spot to continue watching the thing. Mike was honking his car's horn to attract his parents' attention, even before he pulled into their driveway. With a scream, he brought the car to a stop and dashed home, calling out to his parents as soon as he opened the front door. Telling them as soon as he could what he had seen, he persuaded them to accompany him, and when they reached the front door together, Mr. Foss led his son out to his automobile. However, before they could leave, Mike abruptly came to a stop. The thing that Mike had noticed on the desolate road moments before was there, both in front of them and above them, estimating that it was 100 feet ahead of them. It seemed like it had followed him home. At this distance, they were able to make out that the object was clearly formed like an egg, with a blue glow at the bottom and various coloured flashing lights on the upper half that appeared to melt into one another. For 20 to 25 minutes, all 3 of them were fixated on the thing. It spent this time between the barn and the hog house until it started to gently and steadily walk away from them, finally vanishing into the distance. Although none of the family members knew what to make of the incident, they all agreed that they had witnessed something utterly unusual. Furthermore, the Foss family would continue to experience weird occurrences even though they were unaware of it at the time. More information would emerge in the days and weeks that followed as UFO investigators worked through the case. For instance, Mr. Foss remembered that on the night in question, he had been watching television when it suddenly started to act strange shortly before his son arrived home. Mr. Foss would go on to say that the television only typically behaved in this manner during strong winds when the antenna was being hit, leading him to believe at the time that a sudden wind had picked up. Interestingly enough, the television reception had returned to normal by the time they went back inside the house after the object vanished. In addition, Mr. Foss was the one who realized that the object had to have been perfectly silent the entire time, and he remembered that as soon as he stepped outside after Mike got home, he could hear traffic on the interstate, which was about 2 miles distant. Additionally, he remembered seeing the wing lights of an aeroplane and could hear it going by. If the much closer object had been making any noise at all, he and Mike and Mrs. Foss would have definitely heard it, since he could clearly hear these other sounds. Mr. Foss and Mike also remembered that the object's radiance illuminated the entire yard. Mrs. Foss, incidentally, had been wearing opera glasses as she viewed the proceedings via the kitchen window. As it drifted off into the distance, she kept watching the item, and after a few moments, she said, it seemed to pause and shoot out a few red balls from its side. These balls floated in different directions away from the object. One of these balls abruptly halted as she was examining it, then burst into silence. The thing had almost vanished by the time Mike and Mr. Foss came back inside. Mike would also say that when he saw the object again, much closer, he felt no fear at all, even though the first time, when he saw it from the quiet roadside, he had experienced a rush of terror. He explained that he thought anyone who could produce something like that could have easily hurt him the first time if it had been hostile. In the coming days and weeks, Mike started having odd, recurrent dreams in which he found himself on a hilltop on an unfamiliar planet with a purple sky. He explained that some of the unusual vehicles he saw traveling through the sky were silver, some were black, and that it appeared like a war was going on. He never got over the idea that the weird object he had seen would return, especially when he dreamed about it. The object did, in fact, return 3 more times between November 27th and December 11th, 1976. These 2 sightings were the first 2 that came from a distance, but when the Foss family saw it a 3rd time, it was much closer, precisely as close as it had been the first time, hovering once more between the barn and the hog house.